Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's good to see y'all. We are going to be talking tonight about the Apache mastery of ambushes and how that works into our next episode. We're going to get Sam, who will be joining us shortly, is going to be throwing down his hot take of who is the best at ambushing, I guess we could call it, in all of world history. And then we're going to get into a little bit of boxing talk, boxing in the Old West, some of our hot sports takes. Then we'll go into the chat, see what you guys want to talk about. So it should be a fun evening. Let me bring up Sam. Welcoming now to the stage, hailing from Texas, it is Sam. Everybody welcome Sam to the stage. Good to see you, bro. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing all right.
We're going to fake like we haven't been talking for the last 15 minutes, but this will be an interesting stream. This will be an interesting one. Really, ambush warfare is a decisive weapon in all of world history.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that I think is, probably led to more scary unalivings than anything. Like I feel
it leads to some really overwhelming like disparities and casualties, right? Because kind of the way historically most battles kind of play out is like once like there's a threshold basically that once kind of things get to, one side breaks and runs.
Sure.
But ambushes, what happens is when you get caught
right
unprepared, people don't know what to do, and then you get battles where like 10,000 people die because
And I think the thing that comes first to my mind is Teutoburg, right? Like in my mind, it just even the story we're going to talk about tonight has these kind of shades of the Teutoburg massacre. Do you know the exact dates on that? I don't remember the exact dates.
I actually have that pulled up on my other screen here because we're going to talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Battle of Teutoburg, September 8th and 9th, 980.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not too far removed from the time of Christ. But I think we'll talk about that later. But I think
Christ was a child at the point when this was happening.
He's like. Probably. Do you think he could have heard news of the Teutoburg massacre? Like, do you think it could have flowed down?
It's possible. So he would have probably been a child in Egypt at this point.
Okay.
But it's the exact date of when, of year of when Christ was born is a little bit unclear.
Well, you know what? Safe to say Joseph and Mary would have heard about it. Maybe if news
possibly, but again, it's like it's half the world away. And the Romans probably didn't like to talk about it either.
That's fair.
If you were not like the Romans definitely knew about it. That
I don't blame them for maybe kind of sweeping that under the rug a little, not putting that in the local papers immediately.
It was pretty embarrassing, right?
Yeah,
pretty embarrassing.
Cool down a little bit. Well, tonight is really kind of a similar situation where you had a preeminent power in the U.S. Army, and we're going to actually talk a little bit about the Buffalo Soldiers' involvement in this. And ultimately, this is a bit of an interesting battle. We're going to talk about the Battle of Las Animas. Really, it's often called the Battle of Massacre Canyon. I didn't call it that because we already have an episode on another Battle of Massacre Canyons. In the annals of Old West history, Sam, there's a lot of massacre canyons, believe it or not. But this is Las Animas Canyon. The U.S. Army has been pursuing Chief Victorio and these renegade, I'm going to call them renegade because that's what they're referred to in the historical record, but meaning that they have fled from their agreement to remain on San Carlos Reservation, the agreement that they had with the United States government. So now the United States government is hunting them down, and they've trailed them all the way to the mouth of this little canyon in New Mexico, right? And it seems like for all the officer training at the time, they didn't tell these guys about anything like the Teutoburg massacre or was Alexander caught in a massacre, but no, they didn't seem well schooled on the history of massacres.
Alexander never lost a battle.
No, dude. And you know what? I've been watching several clips from the movie Alexander in it's 2004. I think it's a Scorsese film. we got to get you to watch it. We got to get your take on it. You're either going to love it or hate it, man.
I've only already talked to. I watched like the first. I've watched like the beginning of it, and I got really turned off, and I don't think I watched it.
Well, then I'd almost want to like drag you through the entire thing.
Okay. Well, you know what? If maybe we'll do that for one of another movie night or something.
Yeah.
I will. And you can let me rant about it. That'll do.
We did Kingdom of Heaven, and that was fun.
That was a movie I like. So yeah,
I was just gonna say
maybe the next one we had to be that I don't like.
We need one you don't like, right?
I tell you what, I will never watch again though is Apocalypse Now.
Really?
I can't stand that movie.
Man, I don't think I've actually seen that in its entirety, so I need to watch that. I was a big fan when I was like 10. I was a big fan of Full Metal Jacket. I don't know what that says about me, but my dad showed me Full Metal Jacket. I don't know why.
There are people who think
like 10.
There are people, including my former roommate, who think Apocalypse Now is the best movie ever made.
Yeah.
And so my former roommate made me watch it, and it was just like, this is garbage.
It seems a little full of itself.
Yeah,
like I don't want to talk about a movie I haven't seen, but it seems a little.
It's very like there's nothing subtle. Nothing is actually, it's so. I know it's so like in your face about what it is that it's like, okay, you know exactly where the story is going within the first like 10 minutes of it.
Alexander is like that. It is. Yeah, it's a lot like that. The battles are cool, though. I think the battles are. Cool.
I will endure Alexander because of the cool battles. I will endure that. I will critique them. I will critique the tactics and armor and such and weaponry. But I will watch it.
We'll have to see. Let me see. Is there anything else I wanted to clear up before we get into this? Oh, so this story is going to be a preview of our upcoming episode. Thank you all for all your support on the Apache and the dark history of the Comanche. I'm glad everybody seems to be enjoying that, so that's fantastic. The next episode is going to be really the beginning of Victorio's War. And be honest with you guys, I might mix things up and call Victorio Cochise at some point because I don't know. I have trouble with that. I don't know what to tell you. Let me know in the chat if I do that. Sam, I'm putting you on Cochise watch as well. If I say Cochise, call me out because I really mean Victorio. But this is really the first, it's kind of really the second engagement of Victorio's War, but it's the first really, the first combat between Victorio and the U.S. Army and what would become and evolve into Victorio's War. And this, Victorio's War as a whole, is a masterclass. I think you would really enjoy this story as a whole, Sam, because it's a masterclass on strategy, on tactics, on setting ambushes, on guerrilla warfare as a whole. Even my own opinion has been changed a little bit in writing this script because I really held and do still hold the Comanche as this pound for pound champion of at least open plains warfare, right? And my bias has been that I kind of gave the Comanche preeminence over the Apache because the Comanche drove the Apache out of Texas, more or less, right? But the Apache, in a very short period of time, mastered mountain warfare. And they gave the U.S. Army, who was a veteran army in many ways, many of the cavalrymen pursuing them were veterans. They gave them fits. They gave the U.S. or the Mexican government fits. They gave Apache scouts and Navajo scouts fits. And it's just a real, it's a complicated thing because they did some really terrible things in the midst of this, right? But it is an earnest effort on behalf of a people to maintain their way of life, to try to extend extend the Army's chase of them to the point that the Army would negotiate with them and they would be allowed to return to their homes, which is actually in the Black Range. We always kind of picture the Apache living in the middle of the desert. These particular Apache lived in the mountains. So they became real, I think some of the most adept at mountain warfare that we have in North America. So to kind of give you an overview of where we're at, the Apache have begun kind of filtering into the reservation system. And these reservations are just hellholes. Like the ration allotments are often late. There is no sewage. There is very little shade. There is very little shelter. There's no game to hunt. There is no civil authority, and they cram these warring tribes in together, the Navajo and the Apache, even kind of conflicting bands of the Apache themselves get all shoved into these reservations. So there's all kinds of conflict and what we would consider violent crime in the midst of all of this. And so long story short, Victorio just decides, like, I've had enough of this. Like, there's been many iterations of leaving the reservation before this, but this is Victorio's kind of final, he's had enough, right? So he gathers a couple hundred followers, they return to their homelands, but it's made pretty apparent that they're not going to be able to stay there. They're kind of continually hit with ambushes by Mexican forces, by American forces. So they leave their homelands in these mountains, and they're just kind of on the run. Victorio knows where the Mexican-American border is, so he's kind of zigzagging back and forth over it just to complicate things even further. And they end up hitting a ranch on September, I believe, 17th. They hit, I believe it's McKever's Ranch, and it's just an isolated ranch in the middle of New Mexico. It's interesting that they would treat the local homesteads as kind of a renewable resource where they would not loot all of the goods and the livestock, because they thought, well, if we take all of this guy's stuff, he's going to leave. But if we take 50% of his horses, he's just going to get more horses, and then we'll come back and we'll steal those. There was lots of unaliving of several homesteaders, but in general, the Apache kind of saw this as like a crop they could go back and harvest, right? They hit McKever's Ranch pretty hard. I believe they unalived 2 or 3 guys, and then they take off again, but they've got fresh horses. The U.S. Army, in particular, the 9th Cavalry, who are the Buffalo Soldiers, who are largely composed of ex-slaves, who are really kind of the first African-American regiments, dedicated African-American regiments, as cavalry regiments, certainly in the United States, the history of the United States Army. So this is kind of they're really pretty experienced by 1879. They're very adept frontier warriors. So they are perfectly suited for this task of pursuing the Apache. But some mistakes were made here, where it really wasn't the Buffalo Soldiers who made the initial mistakes. I believe it's I'm not great with regiments and stuff, guys. There was a company of Army soldiers, though. Guys, if you're a veteran in the chat, help me out and correct me a little bit. But a company of soldiers had been pursuing the Apache after stealing these horses, right? And they're relying heavily on Navajo scouts, because the Navajo, bro, they hate the Apache. So any chance that they can get to go track down the Apache, they're kind of like, oh, you're going to pay me too? That's cool, because they do it for free, right? They hate the Apache. So they're tracking them down. They track them down to the mouth of Los Animas Canyon. It's in southeastern New Mexico. I had to think about that. They pretty much just dive right in. They pursue them through the mouth of the canyon. But the Apache have, of course, sent their women and children on farther, and they are up on the walls of this relatively steep canyon, and they're hidden behind rocks, and they're obviously just waiting. There's some disparity of the soldiers may have seen an Apache woman fetching water, or they may have seen a couple Apache warriors who fired on them and lured them in. A very Mongol type strategy. But instead of swooping down on them with horses, they're in these entrenched positions. So once the soldiers get past this particular point, they just start raining down fire on them, right? From all angles. The soldiers dismount. Some of them, I believe, are infantry, but everybody just makes a break for the walls, the bottom sides of the canyon, and gets behind rocks. And they're just stuck there. Even there's a couple guys that are wounded in the first volley, and the Apache just leave them kind of wounded and rolling around, because they want the soldiers to go out and get them so that they can snipe them down. And this just goes on for hours and hours. And finally, the 9th Cavalry gets word of this. And I believe it's 2 companies from the 9th Cavalry. And they start pouring into the canyon. The Apache hear them coming and then hold their fire. it's just like very eerie scene to me because like everything goes quiet, and then the Buffalo Soldiers ride into the canyon. Again, as soon as the last guy is past this certain point, the Apache open up fire again, and everyone is forced to kind of flee to the sides of the walls of the canyon. The Apache shoot the horses first, like every time, right? You're just going to see this canyon floor full of dead and dying horses. It's a nightmare. And now they're pinned down. But the Buffalo Soldiers are pretty hardcore dudes, right? And several of these soldiers are like, they're pretty bad A's, I guess I could say with YouTube permission. Excuse me. There's 3 medals of honor awarded in this battle alone, where two of the officers, 2 sergeants, one is on, I believe it would be the west side of the canyon. He makes the first move and attempts to lead, I believe it's 3 or 4 other soldiers up the embankment of the canyon, and then kind of take a high position on the Apache from across the canyon and flank them in a way, like get further down the canyon and then shoot from their side towards them. That doesn't work. They get stuck on the ridge line, and they're pinned down there as well. So the Apache are dividing their forces, and it's just getting better and better for them. Another contingent of soldiers led by another sergeant, whose name is escaping me, so you have to forgive me, runs across the floor of the canyon and makes their way up the same side that the Apache are on. And they start trying to flank the Apache from that side. They are pinned down in their position as well. So Victorio is just behind these rocks and guiding the fire of his warriors. And it's just a turkey shoot for them effectively. And what the soldiers have to do is essentially wait till nighttime. And then the Apache are kind of just like bored with it. And they figure they've got them pinned down and they want to continue on and make their escape. So the soldiers start filtering down to the floor of the canyon. But then the Apache open up another barrage of fire. So all of these soldiers have to be ushered out of the canyon floor by their officers. In the midst of this, there is a private who's been lying on the canyon floor. He's injured, and in this kind of like, I don't know, you ever seen Tropic Thunder? Sam?
Yeah.
All right. So it's like that kind of scene where like he picks him up on his shoulder and he like carries him out. It's very like 80s action movie. They finally get out of the canyon, right? They pull everybody back. The Apache take off to the east, and all of the soldiers kind of just lick their wounds and head back north for a while. And Victorio buys himself a lot of time. It's about a week or so where they're tracking him back and forth across the border. And it is essentially like a prophetic sign to him, right? Like, it's like, we really do have a chance to do this. We really can win. And a mission that many of the people following him thought was kind of futile. They just don't know what else to do, right? They know they can't stay here and endure the conditions of the reservation. So they kind of saw this as one last gasp, but now they see it as a feasible endeavor where they might be actually able to return to their way of life. So this is a great boost for the morale of the Comanche. Or the morale. I'm doing pretty good with the name so far, though. For the morale of the Apache, and a massive blow to the morale of the U.S. Army. And it is really the first official confrontation of Victorio's war. So I think it's going to make a great episode. We've got a major figure from the Apache. I honestly think he's kind of, man, I don't know, like a Baldwin IV of the Apache. Like, he's a genuinely caring leader, but he's like, he doesn't play around either, right? What else? Am I forgetting anything else? No, I think it'll make a great episode. Oh, and there's 3 medals of honor awarded in one battle. So just a great overall story. This kind of leads me to my overarching point of, in my opinion, the Apache are I think the best at, I'm trying to find a more eloquent way of saying this, but I think the Apache are the best practitioners of guerrilla warfare and setting ambushes and luring the enemy into those ambushes that we have in the totality of Old West history. You can make arguments for open plains warfare with the Cheyenne, the Blackfoot, the Comanche, maybe even like deep woods warfare with like the Iroquois, or swamp warfare with the Seminole. But when it comes to proper guerrilla warfare, I think it's hard to beat the Apache. However, I think Sam has a bit of a differing opinion on who is the best ambushers. Is that we can use that as a verb?
Best ambusher?
Yeah.
In history?
History, yes.
I'll tell you what my pick is, but first I gotta sorry, to show.
Oh, the dogs boost the views.
Yeah, she decided she wanted some attention.
Dog
at some point they're probably gonna bother me until I get up and give them a treat. But
that's all right. You can see the views go up when you put the dog on the screen.
Show the dog. Yeah, that's Abby. She's sweet, but she's a little needy sometimes. Oh, did Brandon disappear? I don't know what happened to him. Well, hopefully he'll be back in a minute.
Sorry, kicked myself off.
That's
Good
okay.
to be back, everybody.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there because we were.
Well, actually, before we jump into the best ambushers, let's hit the chat real quick so we can make sure we're not leaving anybody out. Mark Kavitsky, good to see you. Theo, what's up, bro? Arizona boy, I haven't seen you in a while, man. Good to see you. Arizona boy is an OG as well. Jake Skywalker, an OG. South Carolina, is that South Carolina backup? What's up, man? Terry Art, good to see you. Theo says, sounds like someone doesn't like the smell of. Sam does not like the smell of napalm in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, I'm not actually sure what napalm smells like. So
I believe okay. I don't know.
I suspect it does not smell good. I mean, it's.
I was told as a little hillbilly kid that if you combined styrofoam and what the British would call petrol, I've heard that that's what it makes it. But I'm not encouraging anyone out there to do it. I heard this from another hillbilly kid.
Yeah, please do not go and try that.
Please don't do it. This was a proper hillbilly kid with a mullet and everything. Don't listen to him.
And yes, Tropic Thunder was a great movie, by the way. You see, whoever was talking about Tropic Thunder, Melissa Cecilia.
Oh, Melissa Cecilia. Oh, she's
best movie ever.
I follow her on Instagram. She's Orthodox.
I tell you what, I watched Tropic Thunder with my dad. It was one of those movies that we could only watch when my mom was out of town.
Yeah, how did your dad like it?
Oh, he was cracked up.
That's funny. Oh, okay, awesome.
It's one I'm probably the only person he can watch those kind of movies.
Sure, yeah.
But he thought from the get-go, the best part of I will say the only bad thing about Tropic Thunder is the funniest part of the movie, though, was the fake trailers at the beginning.
Yeah, there was just so much. You have to watch it like 5 times to get everything that they're throwing at you.
The fake trailers at the beginning of Tropic Thunder were just comedy gold.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Well, I didn't understand what I was seeing when I first saw it. I was like, the first 10 minutes just like kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. It was
great. Tom Cruise is highly underrated in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Playing the guy who's supposed to be Harvey Weinstein.
Yes. Yeah.
That's who it's basically been confirmed at this point. That is who that's based off of.
Easy on the dogs. On the dogs, please. Not sure what that means.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either what he was trying to get at.
Skywalker says Japan. Oh, we were just talking about Japan before we came on here. What's up, Omni Vincent? Good to see you, bro. Nick Citron, what's up, bro? I watch petrol documentary videos, no problem. Well, listen, you didn't hear anything about petrol from this show, okay? Let's see.
Yeah, there's so many great lines in Tropic Thunder.
I don't want to divulge your dad's profession, but it is particularly funny that like he would love that. I figured he would love it or hate it.
I'm pretty sure I've said on here before what my dad is. My dad's a priest.
Yeah, so it's like
my dad's an Orthodox priest. He cracked up so much at the gay monk
I forgot
trailer at like because Orthodox priests, for those who do not know, can be married and have children.
Mhm.
So obviously, this is not
That's
like
what Sam said.
it is not scandalous that I am
Yeah.
that I was born and my father is a priest.
We're
But,
glad you're here, Sam.
He thought that was so funny.
Melissa says Tom Cruise's character in Tropic Thunder at the very end of the movie when he's dancing. Yes, absolutely. And Danny McBride. When Danny
there's so
McBride
many legendary
explosive.
there's just legendary moments in that movie all over the place. It's like, they can't. Man, I hope that someday we can go back to making movies that good.
We might, man. We might.
I think it will happen eventually.
People are loosening up a little bit.
It's we'll get there eventually. Hopefully,
you just can't be that uptight and be funny. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you cannot. And it's a yeah.
But it's coming back, man. It's coming back. Bama Deanna says priest children are usually considered the wild child.
There's some truth to that.
That is wild.
There's some truth to that. I will say. I know a lot of other priest kids. We have a,
Well, we got a lot of wild people in the chat, so don't worry.
But yeah. So
carry on. You want to talk about who your pick for the greatest ambushers in history is?
Best ambusher in history. I'm gonna go with Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general during the Second Punic War.
That boy had a set on him.
Hannibal Barca's one of the best generals in history.
Top five.
He's top 5.
Yeah.
Was a tactical genius.
Agreed.
And a strategic genius as well. It just kind of so happened that he was up against things that he couldn't anticipate. Rome. There's a reason that sometimes people look at Rome, including the Romans themselves, and look at their kind of like as if there's like a sense of destiny with Rome, because Rome lost a lot of battles.
Yeah, it's like Michael Jordan lost a lot of basketball games.
Yeah, Rome lost horrifically lost a lot of battles, and they had the unique battles, the kind of battles that would have ended kingdoms, and that did end kingdoms on other places.
Yeah, Rome could take the hit though. They had a good chin, and
they had the ability to kind of come back from that. But Hannibal Barca has 2 of the in the Second Punic War. Hannibal had to take on Rome. I'm gonna Jake Skywalker here. Rome was coming, Rome had driven them out of Sicily. It's actually Hannibal's father, who had been the commander who had basically gotten beaten.
What was his name again? His name is
Hamilcar.
Yes, Hamilcar.
And Rome was coming for them. There was long-standing rivalry between the two. There was only going to be one kind of power that was going to be. They were competing in Spain. They were competing in Sicily.
Is this a Russia-Ukraine kind of situation where they know that Rome is going to kind of make a move?
A little bit. It was they'd been the First Punic War had already happened. Obviously, that had been kind of driven them out of Sicily, and Rome was coming, and Hannibal had the idea that, look, we're winning battles in the field. But we're not winning. But we're winning. But Rome is attacking aggressively. He had this idea that if I can get an army to Italy and start winning battles in Italy, the other Italian tribes who have been conquered by Rome at this point will start see the weakness within Rome and want to kind of and rebel and join with it.
Right.
And that was what he needed.
Switch sides.
That was what he needed to do in order to beat Rome, because Rome, they had decent commanders, a good kind of basic military strategy. This is kind of pre some of the legion reforms, so their armies weren't quite as effective as they get later, but they have they have an ability like no one else to raise new armies when they lose armies.
Is that because of just the amount, their population?
Yeah, there's a lot of people living in Italy, but a lot of them are technically conquered peoples, right? They're the federati. I think it's like how they as what they it's like there's a very class-based society in ancient Rome, and there's like Romans, and then there's and then within Romans there's different status people.
Is a federati like a federalized citizen?
Yes, it's like people who are who can become citizens usually through military service, but they're not Romans, and so there's the idea that Hannibal has is he says, if I can go win battles in Italy itself, I can convince the Italian allies are going to rebel and try to take their independence back, because conquered peoples generally don't like being conquered and are generally unhappy with their conquerors.
Sure.
It was not a bad strategy. It didn't end up working, but part of that is because Rome kind of through their military service, they had this kind of basically this pathway to being Roman citizens. So he kind of underestimated how much how integrated the Italians had at that point already been into the Roman system.
Okay.
And he thought there was going to be a lot more kind of resentment towards their overlords than there actually was.
Did he see them as they're all going to join together and then rebel, or was it like we'll cause each of them
different? Either way, I don't think it mattered in one sense to Carthage.
And half a dozen.
I mean, Carthage wanted to. Ideally, they wanted to be able to regain their territory in Sicily, and also in Corsica and Sardinia. And kind of just maintain their dominance in the Mediterranean.
Tell the audience real quick where Sicily and
so Sicily is the island to the south of Italy. If it's part of Italy. I'm sure you guys have seen it on a map. Corsica and Sardinia are the two smaller islands to the west of Italy. They're kind of north of. They're kind of in the middle of the Mediterranean to the west of Italy. Corsica, I believe, is the smaller one. Sardinia is the larger one, but I could be wrong on that. In fact, I'm gonna make sure that Corsica is the northernmost one, the smaller one, and then Sardinia, so.
And they've been
those had also been. They've been, I believe, they had been at this point been driven out of there as well,
and relegated to Northern Africa. Correct.
Go to Northern Africa and Spain. Spain was their other kind of big area that they controlled, but Rome was coming after Spain, like eventually, and they knew that.
They've already got modern day Germany, France.
No, they hadn't. This is prior to the conquests. They basically controlled Italy, Sicily, and Corsica and Sardinia.
Oh, so they're really dealing with Hannibal
and even the northernmost part of what's now Italy, which wouldn't have necessarily been considered Italy in classical times, right? They did not necessarily control that either.
Okay.
So there were other kind of Gallic tribes that lived up there.
But they do have control of southern Italy.
Yeah,
Sardinia,
most of Italy. Yeah, and
Sicily.
Most of the actual peninsula, right? And Sicily. I guess Syracuse was kind of independent at this point. But like Syracuse was independent, but basically aligned with Rome. Syracuse was a Greek city-state, which is Syracuse is a city in Italy. And so, Hannibal did not have the ability to raise armies like Rome did. But Hannibal was a tactical genius. All right. So he in the field, like nobody could beat Hannibal. He was very good. So he forges an alliance with some of the Gallic tribes who live in what's now northern Italy, and at the time would not have necessarily considered themselves Italian, and marches his army through the Alps, through the Pyrenees Alps, and into Italy, and basically goes on this campaign when he beats Rome in several major battles. The two of which kind of involve this kind of ambush tactics that we're talking about. Yeah, nobody would like he totally caught him with their pants down when he showed up with an army in the north.
So Rome doesn't believe. Real quick from Bamadiana, he was one determined general. No one would have thought he would travel over the Alps.
No,
but Rome didn't even think this was possible, right?
No, that was nuts, right? I mean, it was especially take an army with full of elephants and the
elephants are true.
People from North Africa, elephants are real thing. Definitely had elephants. War elephants were a big part of the Carthaginian army.
Did he really lose a significant percentage of those going over?
I suspect he did. I'd have to look that up, but I suspect he lost at least some of them. They're obviously elephants are not cold weather animals,
right? But he had enough to make an impression on the Romans.
He had enough, but he was outnumbered significantly by them in these battles in Italy. But he kept just winning massively. And he, unfortunately, his overall strategy didn't work. The Italians did not rebel against Rome, and so he wasn't able to kind of succeed. And then eventually, like, he had to withdraw because it's just how it works. Run out of supplies. You can only loot and pillage so much. And
was he succeeding because he was setting these ambushes?
So two of these kind of battles, especially you have the Battle of Cannae. And the Battle of where is this one? Lake Trasimene. I could be pronouncing these wrong. I'm going to say Trasimene, but I do not actually know. And where he kind of utilizes really just brilliant strategy to get Rome out of position and overwhelmingly win in these battles.
Now, you said he is a tactical genius. Is he also a strategic genius, or are those two, do those usually go hand in hand?
I would say that he is a strategic genius as well. I mean, as it kind of happened, his strategy didn't work, right? Which is his ultimate strategy was, again, is if I can win enough battles in Italy, I can have the Italian allies of Rome kind of lose their faith in Rome, and it didn't work. But it's kind of he had to try something.
Tactically, though, he's very successful.
They did not want to be fighting Rome in North Africa or in Spain, like in their home territory.
Too much open territory, or like what's the rationale behind that?
Because Rome can just throw armies at them, and they can't. They cannot sustain. They can't build armies and assemble them as easily as Rome. He could win 10 to 1 ratio, but Rome's going to just win the war eventually because
you're just going to replace those.
Because every year they can field a new army, and they had a whole system to do that.
Let's see. So this is all around 9 AD. Oh, you know what? A question real quick. No. I think Gladiator reproduces the battle with Hannibal.
Yes, the battle. The Jake Skywalker's here is referencing the Battle of Zama, right? Which ultimately leads to the sack of Carthage, right? The
conspiracy of the Battle of Zama never happened.
I have not heard that. I would be doubtful that that's real. But
is this where they were burying their heads in the sand?
No, I don't think so.
There is a Roman battle where the Romans, I'm sure it's apocryphal, but buried their heads in the sand, I believe. But it's not Zama. Okay, I've cleared that up.
I don't actually know the answer to that though. But yeah, the Battle of Zama was in North Africa, is kind of just outside of Carthage, and leads to the sack of Carthage.
We got one from Mark Kavitsky. Hannibal never lost a major battle. He left because of guerrilla warfare. He left because of attrition.
He won all his major battles in Italy. The issue is that he eventually had to withdraw because he couldn't replenish his forces, right? So he had to withdraw back to Carthage.
It's a recurring theme we see, right? Napoleon going into Russia, same thing. Like, you're just too strung out. Even the Romans fell into this thing, right? Where like they were just, by the latter stages of the Western Roman Empire, they were just too strung out. They just couldn't keep this up.
Yeah, and Rome's kind of military genius was less in tactics and strategy and more in logistics. Was their ability to raise, move, and supply their armies was kind of what ultimately allowed them to achieve this level of conquest, but that was not just kind of like it was different than. Hold on a minute, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, no, this is logistics. This is what we're talking about. This is show business. Things happen.
I'm sorry, my cord got. I don't want my cord was run over my. But Rome's like ability to kind of, so like Alexander's conquests all happened under in basically one big sweep, right? I mean, Alexander takes his army and in pretty much a continuous push
all the way to India. Right?
yeah. And that's kind of a lot of conquerors. That's kind of a lot of big empires get formed that way through the kind of efforts of one, genius leader. Yeah. Rome is interesting because Rome's expansion was gradual. And the reason that it happened that way, there's several reasons it happened that way, but is partially because they had a very competitive, the Roman elite had a very competitive mentality amongst themselves. They're always competing for these kind of elections for these positions within their government. And they have to kind of, there's a lot of competition among them, so that it breeds this kind of very competitive sense in their officer corps. But Rome also, as they conquered areas, they built roads. They built roads and outposts to kind of extend their supply lines. And so they were able to kind of, over generations, really just gradually expand their territory without kind of needing to rely on having a single strategic genius. The genius was in the Roman system itself. So it kind of, for a long time, it almost kind of operated on its own. It didn't have to have like obviously there were people like Julius Caesar, right? And
there's high points, right?
There are, but it's like it didn't require that kind of mastermind to always be pushing it forward.
Before we dealt with the headphones, I was going to ask you if you could pick one of the three for your military force, would it be, or your empire, would you rather be a master strategist? Would you rather be a master tactician or a master logistician? Would you rather be great at tactics, strategy, or logistics?
Strategy.
Okay. I thought that was, so why would you take that out of the three?
Because I think a master strategist can set things up to kind of to where no matter what your if you are a true kind of a master strategist and you can kind of see things as you look at your situation and are able to kind of best judge a strategy for moving forward no matter what your situation is.
That might kind of dictate the logistics that
there are I think that's what I would pick, right? I think if you had to like have one for your fantasy empire or whatever, my dream team, right? I mean, it's a.
I'd have to agree.
I agree. I think Chief Coffee Bean. Now, I will. I'm gonna respond to this one. This is a good segue.
Chief Coffee
Bean says, "You want a Tywin Lannister, not a Robb Stark." The answer to that is yes, but I don't. I take the interpretation of Game of Thrones that Tywin Lannister was not was actually not good at politics.
Oh,
I think, and I think that this is,
up, bro.
I think that this is actually there's a little bit of a debate in Game of Thrones. Is like, was Tywin Lannister actually a brilliant politician? And I think the answer is no. The Tywin Lannister was a deeply insecure person, and a lot of his political decisions were motivated by his insecurity.
We have a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Jake Skywalker. Thank you, bro. I just saw this. Thanks for the stream. Thank you for tuning in, man. Have you guys seen the Rome show on HBO? I'm 20 years late to the party, but I liked it.
I really want to, but I don't have an HBO subscription right now. And next time I get an HBO subscription, like, that's going to be one of the shows I watch. But I don't have one, and I right now, and I will.
I've only seen snippets. I need to.
I've seen snippets too, but it looks good. It looks good enough that I want to watch it.
We've got Mark Kavitsky says the Romans gave citizenship to all people who joined the army for 10 years. This diluted Hannibal's plan to start a revolt.
That's correct, right? So this is kind of what Hannibal Hannibal operates under the more conventional thinking that conquered peoples generally want their independence, and it's true.
Yeah,
that's true. That what he kind of underestimated, though, is that how much the Italians had basically been, how much they were actually more loyal to Rome than he thought they would be.
Yeah, I think this happens a lot where you can count on the conquered people's resentment, but you cannot necessarily count on their willingness to go all the way and rebel and put themselves at that risk. Like, you're really counting on a lot when you
that was part of the
basket.
It was part of the genius of the Roman system was that they granted citizenship to the people who served in the military. Yeah. And it allowed them to constantly be resupplying their armies, because there were plenty of people like, yeah, I'll enlist to, the Romans need a new army, I'll enlist, I'll serve. And
it's not that you get to be, you're part of this you have an official document now, a stamp, right? It's the benefits of Roman citizenry are afforded to you, the rights and the benefits there. Like St. Paul being a Roman citizen was the reason he was beheaded and not crucified, right?
Yeah. You got treated a lot better. And military service at various times also came, if you ended with land grants, a lot of times money. There was like, it was a way for people to move up in the world. If you were, and so that's kind of it was a strong motivation, and it was a strong enough motivation that even though, again, Hannibal was able to achieve these victories within Italy, he did not convince them to.
We've got Arizona Boy, strategists win battles, but logistics win wars.
I'd still rather take a strategist.
I'd agree with you, Sam. I agree with that.
And I understand the point you're making.
I get you there. Yeah. I get it, Arizona Boy. That's not a bad take. That's not a bad take.
I think you can maneuver around a lack of logistics if you have to. I think it's hard for nations to be successful if you don't have some kind of overarching goal that's cohesive and intelligently put together.
Sure.
So that would be my point there. I think you can logistics are something you can build up over time. A brilliant strategist is kind of, if you have one in your generation, it's like you better take advantage of that, because it's chances of you having another one in the next 100 years in your civilization is pretty slim.
There is something to be said, though, for what is it, Patton's 3 Bs of beans, bombs, and bullets. I don't know if that's Patton's invention, but like, if you don't have those things, all the strategy and tactics in the world do understand there is this kind of symbiosis.
Isn't it bombs, bullet, and bandages?
I heard beans, because they gotta have something to eat, but I did think that, like, well, you're just gonna feed them beans, but I heard beans.
Oh, and
bandages make sense too. Maybe there should be 4 Bs, to be honest with you, but
I don't know that one either. So, but yeah, it's a I think again, you can kind of build up. You can build up logistics.
Mark Kavitsky says Hannibal's elephants were used as archer platforms, and the Roman army could not defeat them. The Romans learned not to anger the elephants because they would charge as a group and kill everyone.
Yes. So that is kind of typically how the elephants were deployed by the Carthaginians in battle. Is elephants like yeah, if they get angry and they got to go berserk, they'll charge in and just wreck an infantry line. But elephants are not naturally violent animals, so it's not like reliable to send the elephant in charging a lot of times.
But it's also not controllable really when they go
when they go berserk. Yeah.
Fury.
And the mahout, you know, the person riding the elephant, when one of the things they would actually carry a little chisel, and
Yes.
and to if the elephant went berserk and they could, you know, right to the back of the right little chisel right in the where their brain is to put them down if they had to.
It's like how the CIA puts kill switches on our cars now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
But CIA. the using them as kind of an archer platform that was basically you couldn't really engage with infantry.
It's a gunship, an AC-130 of sorts, maybe.
Yes, okay. and it's basically like bringing a mobile fortification to your battlefield.
Right.
You know, they're very difficult to engage with infantry. Like elephants, like you don't want to engage elephants with infantry or cavalry. They're the ways that you either shoot arrows at them or throw javelins at them. That's actually how you fight them. In that's how you fight them historically, or very long spears. But it's even that's like risky.
It's so dangerous.
And especially it's like they started putting armor on elephants at some point too.
Right. Which it seems like it's not necessarily redundant, but it's pushing the borders of redundancy. I would say that. Armenian Bishop says, in regards to Hannibal, after he was defeated at the Battle of Zama, he found sanctuary in Armenia when he was there, where he helped design the city of Artaxica.
I did not know that. I have to look that one up.
Armenian Bishop's a fountain of Armenian knowledge. What's up, Armenian Bishop? By the way, I don't know if I said hi to you, so good to see you, bro. Chief Coffee Bean says the Vietnam War is the best counter argument for logistics are everything. Whenever propaganda and determination trounce material.
Yeah, see, I agree. That's the in fact, a lot of the kind of later American wars, both Vietnam, Korea, and the wars in the Middle East are, I think, a good example of logistics do not actually.
That's a good point.
You know, we have overwhelming
logistics out the wazoo.
Mm-hmm. We have overwhelming ability to like throw money at problems, but we just can't. There are things that money can't, that logistics doesn't solve. Sure. And one of those is if you don't have a comprehensive strategy for attaining victory, or even an idea of what victory is, then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what your resources are, how easy it is for you to supply your troops. If you don't know what you're doing, like you can't overcome that with logistics.
Right. I always kind of try to boil these down into like some kind of combat sport analogy. And it's like, well, if you're out of position in boxing, like none of the rest of it matters if you put yourself in this poor position. And so it's just like the rest of your tactics and even your logistics aren't going to really matter. And it's like, I think that really drives your point home about, hey, honestly, my first thought was I'd rather have a great logistician, but your point is well taken. You really changed my mind on that, because it's like, yeah, if you don't have the strategy and the foresight to see what logistics you're actually going to need and where you're going to need them, it's almost a moot point. It's almost an unusable asset. Let's see. Coffee Bean. Oh yeah, we got that. Bama Deanna says, I wonder how well the army of Alexander the Great would do against the Roman army.
So there are times when essentially that happened. In the Macedonian campaigns, you know, where you had the kind of Macedonian style army up against the Roman legion. The answer is that the Romans figured out how to make it work, right? And the legions are a pretty decent counter to phalanx pike tactics.
Yeah, can you explain the difference to like phalanx and the Roman
Legion? The
legion, yeah.
Right. So the Roman legions, there's a couple of reasons why their legions kind of win out against the Macedonian phalanx, which had been which post in the kind of post Alexander world had been the dominant military force for most of the kind of the power the kingdoms in like in the Hellenic kind of world, and even in Carthage too, because Carthage fought this way as well.
We're talking long spears and shield walls, essentially.
Yeah. And so there's a couple of reasons Rome kind of wins out. First of all, they are better armed and armored than a lot of the phalanx infantry that they're up against. So the Roman shields are much larger than the shields that they would put on a phalanx guy. Okay. Which, because you don't need a big shield. Well, first of all, you're holding a 20-foot. Yeah, you're holding a huge,
spear,
13 to 20 foot pole, right? So usually requires two hands a lot of times to hold that. So you have limited kind of ability to equip a shield. But also limited use for a shield. The Roman shields, which were kind of designed and could be kind of almost locked together, allowed them to basically close in on those phalanxes and then take advantage of their kind of primary armors for the gladius, which is kind of a short sword. Mm-hmm.
Really, kind of the origin of the word gladiator, right?
Yes, that is the word. That's what the word meant. Someone uses a gladius.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of, the other problem with phalanxes is they don't work well on uneven terrain, and you pretty much have to be on flat terrain to be getting full use out of it. Otherwise, you're kind of like otherwise there's good, because the whole point is like you create this wall of spears where there's just no gaps in that, and you can't and then you can just use that to slowly advance and push the enemy back.
If you have any kind of slope, that makes that
it makes it a lot harder.
Position, yeah.
It makes it a lot harder. It makes it harder to kind of hold that. So the Romans had a good kind of counter to that. They also, the way the Roman legions worked, where they would throw the pilum first,
a javelin of sorts, with a detachable tip,
which is a javelin. It allowed them to kind of close in and fight the phalanxes in a way that was more advantageous for them. And that's the gist of it, is kind of how that played out. You can there are some specific battles you can look up during that.
Really, you can look at the first scene of Gladiator to see like, oh, you're in a mountainous region and you're essentially having these troops form kind of a human tank. I'm trying to think of an analogy for it, but like you're in this you're this boxed in formation and you're going to slowly march forward, and they're fighting in a heavily forested, largely mountainous area, and you can see it's very efficacious for the Romans in that situation. If you can imagine those same Romans having 20-foot spears, that's damn near impossible to fight in a heavily forested mountainous region.
Yeah, exactly. So the Roman legion was so kind of without being like the best at anything, was so good at being a general kind of infantry unit that it was so well adapted for that it kind of just let them take advantage, and because they kind of had built up this system of logistics and supply, they built roads everywhere. They had a whole methods of resupplying their armies. Did they have them take advantage of that?
Did they have a unique esprit de corps? Was that something that the Romans had really instilled uniquely in their army, or is that something that most armies had to do?
Had a what?
Esprit de corps, or like a collective morale, like a collective reason for fighting.
I would say many of the most successful armies probably had had that, but the Romans certainly did have it very good. A very good system. They were very good at that. They had a whole system of military honors, right? So that they would to kind of incentivize bravery on the battlefield.
And this overarching theme of this being for the glory of Rome. I'm sure we see that in the Hellenic world as well, but like, no, this was all seen. Even your individual honors were in the overarching name of the glory of the empire. Is that fair?
And a lot of the during the kind of Hellenic era, right? There wasn't a sense of the Greeks and the kind of Carthaginians as well had more city states. There were more kind of city states, some of which grew into larger kingdoms. But their kind of core identity is like, oh, I'm an Athenian, I'm a Spartan, okay. I'm a Corinthian. You know, they didn't have this kind of cohesive sense that Rome was able to basically foster in their army.
So, and just like if you don't really, I think most people get it here, but it's like the Hellenic world would be more like, I am from California, you are from Texas, where like the Romans would see it as like, we are Americans and we are fighting for the glory of America. Is that fair?
Yes. And you also see like this is part of why nations since Rome have tried to emulate that, like because it's very effective, right?
Varying degrees of success. But Bamadiana says, thanks with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bamadiana. Can't tell you how much we appreciate that. Thanks, Sam and Brandon. Well, thank you, Bamadiana. We have a blast doing this. We talk about, this is how we talk anyways. This is just.
I know you should. Yeah. This is kind of extensions of some of our conversations at like a dinner.
It's usually Sam talking and me scribbling furiously on a notepad. No, thank you, Bamadiana. Thank you very much. Arizona Boy says, during these wars is where we get the term Pyrrhic victory. Yeah,
so Pyrrhic victory comes from a specific general, Pyrrhus of Epirus. Epirus was a Greek kingdom. Trying to describe where it is. It's kind of it's along the Adriatic, kind of on the western side of Greece. And Pyrrhus was the king and one of the great generals of his age.
And what time frame are we talking here?
This is prior to the Punic Wars. Epirus was one of the first big enemies that Rome fought and beat. Pyrrhus takes his armies into Italy and try and attack, and he's able to defeat the Romans in the field, but it basically decimates his army, and that's where and he says something to the effect of like another victory like this and will be the doom of us or something,
right? And
that's where you get the term Pyrrhic victory. Yeah. So
it's one of those terms where like if you haven't heard it before, you will now from forevermore hear it all the time, because it's one of those like I never really heard that until it was explained to me, and now I hear it frequently. Let's see. Swiss revived the phalanx system. I recall seeing that somewhere. Am I right?
I mean, in a way, yeah. The kind of in the late Middle Ages, you see the kind of a reemergence of pike phalanxes. You see both the Swiss and the Scottish use versions of this very effectively. So do others. The Holy Roman Empire, so the Germans essentially do as well. But you see pike phalanxes kind of become more normalized in a part of warfare again in the late Middle Ages.
And you've mentioned this before. Two factors I remember you talking about: the ready availability of pikes. It's easier to make; they're cheaper to make, I believe, something like that. And then it's easier to train people with pikes. You just hold the pike.
Well, a little bit, but it's the Swiss actually got really good at it, and they got really good at having very disciplined pike formations, so that they could because the disadvantage of the phalanx, right, is that it's not very maneuverable. It's very difficult to march with these large spears in any kind of, other than just move forward.
big ships turn slowly, like legit, like you just can't maneuver.
So it took a lot of drilling and discipline to be able to move information, to know also, okay, so if the person in front of you dies, you got to like, where do you go in the move in the formation? Because you got to go move in to fill their spot.
Sure.
So it's a very kind of you had to. It took a lot of drilling and of discipline to do that, so it wasn't until you get kind of in the early Middle Ages, you didn't have as many professional armies, and the professional armies that you kind of had, you had like the professional martial class, which was like the knights, and they typically fought as heavy cavalry or heavy infantry. As kind of in the later Middle Ages, when you get the kind of when nations become wealthier, population is increased, and you start getting more centralization of power within the monarchs, you start to kind of have more professional armies again, and that's when these tactics start happening again, right? So you get this. The Swiss are a good example of, and the Swiss also operated. They took these units and operated as mercenaries a lot. Because Switzerland was, I think, technically part of the Holy Roman Empire for most of the Middle Ages, but was one of those. The Holy Roman Empire is one of those. There were lots of places that were technically part of the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Whether the Holy Roman Emperor could at any point actually enforce that was an open question.
Yes. Well, is this how we ended up with the Swiss Guard, the Pope's Guard?
I don't know the exact. I don't want to give an exact. I don't want to. I don't know the exact history of the Swiss Guard, but I think so. There's that
some iteration of that? I believe
they became very well known for these very disciplined infantry formations, and so if you're the Pope and you can afford to have the best of the best in your personal guard, the Swiss were high up on the list of people that you would want. Last I heard,
the Pope wasn't hurting for money, so
no, they were not.
Jake Skywalker says, "I wonder how Roman cavalry compared to Macedonian cavalry."
That I don't have as good of an answer for. Romans did have the same kinds of heavy cavalry. In fact, and a lot of the core of their strategies, even like their infantry line was different. Because they had the kind of the legions as opposed to the more spear-oriented phalanx infantry. The cavalry game was very similar, and it was still a lot of the core tactics of your battles was you kind of have the cavalry engagements, and then the cavalry loops around and is what kind of decides the battle.
You mean your infantry engagements, right?
Your infantry, yeah, but then the cavalry oftentimes engages each other.
Okay, yeah.
So, and then kind of the winner of the cavalry engagement.
You're kind of like fighting for the flanks, it sounds like. You're like...
In some ways, yeah.
Okay. We've got Armenian bishop. Macedonians used longer pikes, which gave Alexander's father an advantage over other Greeks. I'm wondering if you could speak briefly on Philip and kind of his impact on Alexander.
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but Philip of Macedon doesn't always get the credit he deserves, because it's Philip that actually starts to implement these changes in their military. He switches away from the kind of the older, shorter spears to the longer sarissas, which had been cavalry spears before that. But he says, well, we could take these and make them even a little bit longer, and kind of
like a jousting spear kind of a thing.
They were often two-handed cavalry spears. They would be very long, and they would charge in and just hold it on this. You'd hold it on the side, and you charge in and kind of hit them, and probably let go of your spear at some point too.
And then Philip goes, well, why don't we try this with our ground troops?
Yeah. So he starts to kind of do that, and he actually lays a lot of the groundwork for the conquests that Alexander takes on. Now Alexander was was a genius, a tactical
Absolutely.
genius. Right?
But
So
people tend to think that he appeared out of whole cloth, and it's just like, no. He had the groundwork set for him that he capitalized on.
yeah,
But he was a genius. He was a once in a eon genius.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, there's so few leaders in history that are on the caliber of Alexander.
Real quick while we're on that, what do you think happened? Was he assassinated? Did he have some kind of? Yeah, he was assassinated, right? Yeah.
The leading theory is that he was killed by his former tutor,
Aristotle. Really? I did not know that.
Bruce the poison. It's not I don't know the leading theory. It's one of the theories.
But it is a theory, yeah.
Is Aristotle Bruce the poison that?
I always thought, you know what? There's also this. I think there was a pretty clear conclusion amongst his generals. This thing is going to be divvied up amongst us when Alexander croaks, right? So like it behooved them in some ways.
Yeah.
It also added, it threw them into chaos.
The longer he lived, the more likely he was to have an heir.
And he was already killing them. Who's the guy, the general that he'd been like a longtime friend of Alexander, and Alexander gets drunk and loses his mind and runs a spear through him. I forget his name. So like one of Alexander's longtime generals, they're at a party. Alexander just gets a little too faded, which, hey, listen, I get that part. But then he runs his buddy through, who's kind of like a mentor, I think, runs him through with a spear. And then afterwards, like immediately afterwards, he's like, oh no, what have I done? And it's like, you got too faded, bro.
Alexander also, like, I think he kind of scares people, even people around him.
Yes.
He's so larger than life.
He's very intense and he's myopic, like nothing.
And there's a point where people even start worshiping him.
Yes.
Basically. And I think that scares some of the people around him. So,
and you can see that with Kennedy. Like there's certain people who kind of just develop cults of personality that, they're so overwhelming that I don't think people know what they might not even know that they're actually kind of worshiping this person. But for all intents and purposes, they've deified. You see it with lots of presidents. I'd say that, but lots of political leaders.
Well, in the ancient world, it wasn't that unusual to actually deify your. Right. So your.
It was like, kind of like, well, he's earned it, right? It was like, well, of course we're going to make him a god. Like he's earned it,
Yeah.
And so, sorry, go ahead. You want to finish?
Yeah. So I think there was a lot. You kind of wonder how much did they really look for his killer? And,
I think they looked around the room and then said, he's not here. And then started dividing the kingdom up. I think it went that far.
Yeah. Cause and the thing, he never, his failing was he never prepared a successor. So that's that
threw the world into chaos. The fact that he did not have a successor. Yep.
So you get the division into the different Diadachi, the
Ptolemy, right?
Ptolemy in Egypt, Antiochus in
Antioch,
and then the Seleucid Empire, right? You get kingdoms in Bactria, in Pontus.
It is wild. You can divide it up.
Macedonia.
You get this many pieces out of it, and it was an empire that belonged to one guy. One guy, pretty much. I know. Yes, Philip really put Macedon on the map, so to speak. But then he's like, oh, nice. I like Macedon. Cool. How about we take this thing to India? What if we just expand to freaking India? It's like,
and that's the it's and a little bit kind of what happens is Alexander he introduces this whole new playbook of military strategy. And he was doing it better than everybody else, but he wasn't the only person at the end who could do it. So you basically get all these generals who think, well, I can take these same strategies and tactics and and be just like Alexander, and
you can't out genius a genius though. Like you can't replicate Alexander, you can't replicate Mozart, you can't replicate Napoleon. I think there's just certain people where it's like there's no doing what that guy did. That guy, for better or worse, that guy is special, and he's irreplaceable. Like Axl Rose. We got Arizona Boy. The Romans were notorious for taking what worked in battle and disregarding what didn't. Kind of a Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, that's again, that's the genius of the kind of the Roman system, was that they were able to do stuff like that.
We've got Armenian bishops. Some Albanians try to claim a legacy from Epirus. I'm not sure about that name. Suppose we can't prove it.
Yeah. So, I mean, modern day Albania is kind of where the kingdom of Epirus was in part. I maybe there are Albanians today that have that can trace their lineage to Epirus of Epirus. To Epirus in general, but it's
who is Epirus?
Epirus is the name of the kingdom.
Got it. Okay.
Pyrrhus was the king of Epirus.
Oh, okay. So then that's where the Pyrrhic victory comes from.
Yeah.
I'm putting it together, Sam.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
And Pyrrhus was one of the great generals of the era too. So
same era as Hannibal. I mean, excuse me.
As I think he's still alive technically when Hannibal is alive, but he's older at that point. So
within each other's lifetimes, I guess we could say
they're within. I think that they're technically alive at the same point, but I don't. I'd have to look that one up to be sure. At the very, Hannibal was much younger than Pyrrhus of Epirus was.
Either way, for a stretch of several decades,
Hannibal knew about him. Hannibal knew about him. He was one of the people that Hannibal actually admired.
And by the end of all this, the Romans are sick of both of them. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. So,
we got Bama Deanna. I would challenge Sam to a quiz on medieval history.
Oh boy, I don't know about that. I don't know.
Going down. I've never thought of a trivia quiz though. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you could challenge me to Old West.
I don't like trivia. I don't like trivia, quite honestly.
I'm not the best. I don't even know. I'm not great at trivia questions, like thinking them up. Interesting idea, though. Interesting idea. I'll kick that around a little bit. Mark Kavitsky says the Roman infantry beat the Greeks for two main reasons. There are armor plates, and the gladius. The Romans closed with the Greek hoplites, in which the spears were they were unable to wield their spears, I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, so that's what we were talking about earlier, right? The Roman legions were kind of uniquely. It's not even that they were necessarily intending to be a counter to the phalanx, but that's kind of what happened. Is they were very effective at countering the phalanx. So,
Babidiana says, how long were the Comanche spears? The Comanche spears are actually derived from the Spanish spears, which are kind of, I guess, long form, kind of derived from Macedonian spears in a way. But the Comanche had spears before, but it's kind of like the Macedonian situation. Like they were shorter spears, and then they saw the Spanish spears, and they thought, well, that's going to keep us a lot longer away from the buffalo. So they were generally 12 to 14 feet, somewhere ish in there. They weren't generally two-handed spears. Like they would usually ride up.
You don't need them two-handed spears once you get the stirrup.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
What kind of necessitated, like mounted combat was still very important in the classical era, but is not quite the same as it is later. And the big difference is that you don't have the stirrup. The stirrup eventually comes over from China, and I do not know the exact when you start seeing the stirrup. I think by the end of the Roman era, you have the stirrup.
Yeah, I think somewhere around there.
But in the early Roman conquest, in the Hellenic times, you do not have the stirrup, and which means that when you're riding on the horse, right? You're basically bracing yourself by squeezing your legs together to stay on the horse.
If you've ever tried to do it, it's very, very difficult. It seems impossible that someone could wield a weapon while doing it.
And people did, right? I
mean, but it's just like, wow, that's really difficult. The stirrup made things much easier.
Much easier. It allows you to basically brace yourself on the horse in order to kind of deliver, to deliver a strike. What a lot of mounted combat was before the stirrup was you basically have your one charge, right? And if you don't break them on the charge and you get stuck in melee on a horse, like, it's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
It's a bad, yeah, you're gonna fall off, and so the kind of the way mounted combat works then is let's get the longest spear possible. So you get the really long spears.
Which is a technological advancement. Like, let's not, like, it's not just, oh, I'm going to make longer spears. It actually advances the technology of the warfare, the nature of the warfare itself.
Yeah, and somebody pointed it out a while back too. The way kind of the in the chat, but the way the pike phalanxes work is they actually varied the lengths of the spears depending on where you were standing in the formation. So the front, if you're standing in the front, your spears are not as long. If you have the in the back, you have the longer spears. And the point is that basically in formation, all of the points lined up on the same point. So you basically created this wall of spear points that kind of all the spear points were about at the same level.
It's a fence. It's like a big giant cyclone fence that you can't ride a horse through. It's just like that. Let's see. Mark Kavitsky says the cavalry was supplied by the Allies. I don't know if he's referring to the Roman cavalry. The horses were also smaller than in the Middle Ages.
Yes, in general, and horses in the Middle Ages are smaller than are somewhat smaller than what we have today.
Depending,
right? It's not like, now you'll get people who will claim that horses were like ponies, compared to what in the Middle Ages, and I know exactly where that's coming from, because there was like one archaeological site in Britain that they found a big horse graveyard, and the horses were all small, and so they had people right up there. You saw the history channels get flooded with this, horses in the Middle Ages were tiny,
all of them.
Yeah, and it's like, I can't stand that kind of thing, because
it couldn't be just this one grave where a bunch of small horses died. All the horses,
yeah, exactly, and it's a
could be a sacrificial site.
Only in England too, right? And it's like we have, like, people did record what horses were. Now exactly how we interpret those writings, and like, because sometimes you'll have measurements that like people will write down what the measurements of horses were, but we don't know exactly what the
even their units of measurement are different,
exactly, their units of measurement are slightly different. So, but horses in the Middle Ages were going to be smaller than like a big Clydesdale or a thoroughbred today, but they were still big.
It depends on the use of the horse too. Like, not all horses are war horses. Like a draft horse is useful for plowing a field, is more useful for plowing a field than a quarter horse, right?
Yeah, like, and so the way horse breeding works is very different in the Middle Ages and before that as well. You don't, horse breeds aren't. You don't have horse breeds like you have today with with thoroughbreds and like an Arabian, and other.
The quarter horse is a pretty modern invention,
right? What you instead had, you had horse breeds, in the breeds of horses were based on what they were doing, right. So you had a sumpter, which was a pack horse, right. You had a like a round C it's like a riding horse, like an everyday kind of like a riding horse, like for sometimes for nobility or just for travel. You had a courser, which was usually for messengers, right? Like for speed horses, they were horses that were going to go long distances fast. And then you had a destrier, was the kind of higher levels of horse, was the war horse,
but all bred for very specific uses.
Yeah. And it was so, they would categorize horses based on, on like what the horse was going to do. So, yeah.
Because they viewed them essentially like living tools. It's like, well, I need this. I need my field plowed. So I need this type of horse. I need to go to war. So I need this type of horse.
And it might have been too that, when the horses had colts, they'd kind of look at them and say, well, this horse is going to do this because this is, it's this size or whatever.
There wasn't like the notion of a pet horse per se, though, right? Like it's like
no, you definitely had like places that were known for breeding horses, and the nobility definitely had horses that they would care for, right? I mean,
but your common person would they would view a horse as less pet, more utility.
It was an animal. It was an animal to pull, to pull a plow or to carry cargo,
and expensive, right? For all intents and purposes. Yeah.
Horses aren't cheap.
Even today. That's true.
Even today, they eat a lot, and they, you have to take care of them. Right. So it's not, you need to make sure you're getting, getting what you pay for out of your horse.
Nobody goes broke faster than a dad of a horse girl. I know that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Dog breeding also was similar in the Middle Ages. Now, dog breeding, you actually start getting more dog breeding, it starts to kind of become what modern dog breeding is in the Middle Ages. The dogs were also like you would have because the nobility liked to breed dogs a lot of times, and so it was a very common gift that you would give your fellow nobleman was a puppy. You give them a puppy from your litter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's still kind of a common thing. Like the president of Turkmenistan got that puppy.
There's a reason that it still happens today. Right. It's like that started in the Middle Ages.
I didn't realize that.
That is a long-standing trend for state leaders to give and receive puppies.
That Turkmenistan guy really got the press riled up about grabbing that puppy by the scruff of his neck.
I know.
Oh, that did Turkmenistan that gave him a lot of trouble in the PR department. I don't think they really care about their PR department, but
it's I think Turkmenistan has bigger problems.
Turkmenistan's an odd place, man. Yeah, that's an odd, closed off kind of pseudo.
It's a very poor country.
Very closed off and very insular. Bamadiana says Hadrian had to build a wall because he couldn't make Britannia part of Rome.
Yeah, you couldn't make the north part of it. That's for sure.
Picts, right?
The Caledonians were the main group in the far northern areas of the Picts were a tribe in Britain as well. I have to see where the Picts actually live. I think Picts lived more further south. But
I think the Picts are at the very after. I'm pretty sure they're like the northern end of England.
I don't think so. I think the Picts are further.
Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
I don't. And it's also there's migration of these tribes throughout the ages too. So it's not always the same where they lived at various periods of time in history. So
Armenian Bishop says Xenophon went through Armenia to get back to Greece. He said that Armenians raised horses for their cavalry in Persian armies.
Yeah, that's Armenians have been raising horses for a long time. Armenians also had a lot of good cavalry themselves.
Mark Kavitsky says, Brandon and Sam, have you ever gone to a Renaissance fair and dressed up in the period clothing? I do. Have you ever gone?
Yes, I have, and I have dressed up.
I worked at a Renaissance fair.
I have not. I do not own a full costume. I have pieces of a costume because Renaissance fair costumes are expensive. So
what is your costume consists of? What is the look?
I have a cape. I have that's kind of my main thing right now. And then I have my swords, which I have actual swords.
I think that's where you want to start is the cape and the swords. If you're going to get anything, get the cape and the swords.
I'd
you can
like
build
to
the rest of it around that.
I'd like to have a full costume, but it's a work in progress. The problem is I don't like the Ren Fair that we have here that much.
Really?
The Sherwood Forest Fair.
Yeah, Sherwood Forest. Yeah.
There's some things they do there that really irritate me.
Well,
you have to understand. I'm such a nut about the Middle Ages that it's like
you're a purist.
I'm a purist, and there's some things that they do that are just kind of, I don't know.
I feel that way about like old West towns and stuff. Like, yeah, I get it. I'm very charitable, but
it's a little too. There's some of it that was a little bit too gimmicky for me.
Mhm.
There was also like I got really irritated by some of the artwork there that they had. They said people doing artwork that was like really like satanic artwork, which I just can't stand seeing because it's like it's like you're in a Ren fair.
Yeah,
you
think they would put up with this during the Renaissance?
No, you'd have been killed for that.
Yeah, like legit.
So it irritates me to see that sometimes, and just because it's like,
and I just think it looks stupid.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's like this. It's the edgy teenager, thinks they're being really deep, but they're just being a whiny brat.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what the kind of the witchcraft people are. It's like there's nothing. I really want to go to the Ren Fair in Houston. That's the really big one, like the one something like the.
The one here, Houston is one of the biggest.
Yeah, the one in Houston is either the biggest or the second biggest in the country.
Really?
Yeah, and I want to go there. I've heard that's a lot better than Sherwood Forest Fair, but I kind of like it's also I'm not going to go to the Ren Fair alone. I have to go with people. So
hey, we'll get together. We'll get to chat. We'll all meet up at the Ren Fair. And we'll point out all their deficiencies.
For a while, I had a friend. I have a friend of mine who got free tickets too, and that helped because I'm a poor teacher, so
I worked security.
I have limited budget to spend on things like Ren fairs, and they're so expensive. Just like even the food is super expensive, and even just like getting a drink. Cause and that's the thing is like I'm a big guy, so I walk around a lot. I start sweating a lot. I have to drink a lot of water, and it just gets really expensive.
Quick, have you seen? I think we were talking about before we came on, but all of the Europeans that are here in Texas for the World Cup are finally apologizing, I guess is the best way to put it, because they're saying, "Oh, you guys, we were wrong. Texas heat is unique. American heat is unique. We understand why you guys are always drinking water now." It's like, thank you. This is
you can get dehydrated very quickly out here.
Uniquely oppressive heat, I think. Josh McAllister, what's up, Josh? I've never been to a Renaissance fair in period clothing nor regular clothes. You haven't been. Hopefully, you haven't gone naked. I think they frown upon that.
Oh boy, my friend who got the free tickets, right? He's a district attorney, and he used to be out in Bastrop County, which is where the Sherwood Forest Fair is, which is part of why he got the free tickets. But let's say that there's always some public nudity or
true
arrests around the time of year that Sherwood Forest.
That's a common theme for people
who think, Austin. Yeah, people get a little drunk and they think oh, it'd be a really fun idea is just
naked at the Ren Fair
to disrobe and run through the crowd.
I mean, maybe that adds a little realism to it.
And then they get arrested, and then my friend had to deal with them.
Well, I think in the actual Middle Ages, there would have been probably one or two drunk guys running around naked here and there. So maybe that adds a little flavor to it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, although people probably didn't get drunk as much, even though in one sense they drank alcohol a lot more.
Yes.
Because the alcohol that they had was not as high. Was not as intoxicating as modern alcoholics.
The ABV was way lower. Armenian Bishop says Caledonian, Scots, and Picts were north of the Hadrian Wall. Okay.
I thought it was just the Caledonians at a certain point, but I thought
you guys don't make me look stupid.
I'd have to go look that one up.
I'm out of that fight. I'm neutral on that. I was just throwing something out there.
I am not an expert on Roman Britain, so.
Josh McAllister says, have either of you ever been to a powwow? I have not. I've been near one. I lived my ranch and my family's ranch in California is near a rodeo grounds, and they would have powwow was out there, and they'd also have gay rodeos. So it was an interesting mix of population. Not at the same time, but they would be out there. They'd be scheduled intermittently, and regular rodeos. So you didn't want to mix the two up. You'd be confused. Let's see. Though one of them had notably better attire. I would say that. Mark Kavitsky says, I have a knight's costume with real weapons. Wow, a 40-pound halberd. Also Viking outfits and merchant outfits. I like Renaissance fairs. That's impressive.
I really want to like it. It's a thing that it's so closely aligned with my interests. I just don't like the one here. I really want to try to go to the one in Houston. I've heard that it's a lot better. So I don't know. I also got a little frustrated at the just some of the historic accuracy stuff. I'm not expecting a Ren Fair to be 100% historic accurate, obviously, sure. Right? But there is still a standard. There's still a standard, and there's still like a I don't want people to be misinformed about things.
Yeah.
You know?
I'd say the same thing with an Old West town or with powwows or whatever. There's certain things where it's like that particular point we do need to be accurate, or it throws everything else off. So there are certain things. And then there's other things where it's like, hey, we'll let that go. Like, I don't care what color his pants are or something. It's fine. Josh McAllister says, a gay rodeo. Yeah, man, there's a King of the Hill episode. If you like King of the Hill, there's a King of the Hill episode that explains all of it. It's a real thing, and it's a funny episode. Armenian Bishop says, Tacitus mentioned a war with the Caledonians. I probably got that wrong about the Scots north of the Hadrian Wall. That is becoming we'll have to do a whole show on the Hadrian's Wall. But Tacitus mentioned a war with the Caledonians. Any take on that?
Yeah, they were never conquered. They fought against the Romans, and there was a lot of guerrilla warfare back and forth. There's also a wall north of Hadrian's Wall, I believe. There's a set of walls.
Is there?
Yeah. There's several walls in that area that kind of, some of which were abandoned, and they were abandoned at various stages. The Britain was just so uniquely hard to resupply too.
Because you got to cross a strait, and then
the weather is not great, and the people in Britain never really submitted to Roman rule. Even the people who were conquered, they had a hard time ruling over them, just in general. Because even like the conquered peoples there, the conquered tribes, were deeply sympathetic to the tribes who were resisting still.
Well, London was under Roman rule, right?
Yeah.
Which is South England. But even so, even the citizens of London would kind of sympathize with the
native Britannic peoples. Yeah. Were not ever really happy about being under Roman rule.
Like you were saying earlier, conquered people are never really that happy about it.
Yeah. And they were never, it's possible that had things progressed differently in history, that eventually, like much of other places that the Rome had conquered, it would have been integrated into kind of the Roman system, but it never was.
Was it towards the late-ish stages of the Roman Empire?
Yeah, and by that point, it was already, and it was never a priority, because it's like there's not a lot there that's worth really maintaining, like investing in and maintaining the presence. There's not a lot of like rich natural resources there that they're exploiting. It's not good farmland comparatively to others. Like they already have France, they already have Italy. Like there's nothing in Britain that they really need. So there's never really a strong incentive to kind of develop it as much as they did other places. And you also get really embarrassing things happen there. Like you get the destruction of the Ninth Legion, which is a great embarrassment to Rome. There's another ambush we could talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
this one we don't really know. It's not really clear what happened.
We should touch on that and Teutoburg as well before, like that.
Yeah.
Those are two
were
major blows to the Romans. Like,
I think to this day there is a lot that is still unknown about how that battle went.
Is that because again, like Teutoburg,
there were no survivors. Yeah, there were no survivors.
I don't know. It's kind of like that with Custer's Last Stand. It's like, well, I don't know, man. They killed them all. It's like, we don't, I don't know what happened.
And it's not that
they killed them all.
It's also, it's not, obviously it's not that everybody died to a man necessarily,
yeah,
but a lot of the people who survived, they either didn't talk about it or they basically couldn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the Roman, the legionnaires who survived, right? If you survived that, what are you going to do? Return back to Rome without your legionary eagle, without, like you're going to be treated as somebody who well, you'll probably be killed because you'll probably be treated like somebody who as a deserter. That's probably what would happen. And so some of them may have survived, but then they just basically lived north.
Why were they there? Was it, if it wasn't good land to develop, was it just this compulsion to keep expanding?
Yeah, pretty much. Pride. That was pretty much it.
Well, can you break down which happened chronologically first, Teutoburg or
Teutoburg is much earlier.
Can you break down that real quick and what happened there?
Let's see.
Well, within reason, it doesn't have to be real quick, but you know what I mean.
So Teutoburg, I'll try to give a brief. Is not 980
in Germany, right?
In Germany, it's kind of the Black Forest region.
Think of like a dark, creepy forest. That's what this is.
I want to do a deeper dive on Teutoburg, but I want to do some research before.
Oh, for sure. Just like the basic kind of skeleton overview of it.
But
it's a massive.
I'm trying to think of it's a massive military blunder.
They didn't really think it could happen. They were
they basically Teutoburg, the forest there, the Teutoburg forest, right? When it's foggy and rainy, is really hard to see in.
It's like a horror movie.
So basically, they have a horror movie like thing that happens to them as they get lured out of position. They get marched too further in position. It's foggy. They don't see the Germans surround them, and they just basically annihilate them. And the legion gets lost.
It's Varus. Is Varus the general?
Yeah. And I don't want to give any more details than that, just because I don't. It's a very famous battle, and it's not one that I.
It was such a devastating defeat, though, that particular, I forget the emperor, but wasn't he walking around, at least it may be apocryphal, but he's walking around in the middle of the night saying, Varus, give me back my legions. Like, it was such.
I've heard that before, yeah. And it's Augustus, a bit Augustus, right?
Yeah, there we go. Yes. Like, again, could be apocryphal, but it does speak to the devastation that Rome felt over this.
Yeah, it was a major blow.
Couldn't believe it. Like they're September 11th or something. Like it is just like.
And they eventually extend further, but it also it keeps them out of like advancing further into Germania for a while.
So. And then this happens. It's not the same exact thing happens again, but they fall into another ambush in Britannia to them.
Yeah, I think we know even less about that one though.
But who, just in general, like who is the enemy force?
It's a collection of Picts, Caledonians, Scots. It's a collection of the Britannic tribes.
And all we know is that Rome lost.
Yeah, and died, if not to a man, then essentially to a man. Basically, there were no survivors. They lost. They had these kind of legionary eagles. There's a gold eagles that they put on their standards, and like you would have a guy. It was a very high honor to be the person who carried that into battle. And it was a symbol of the legion. Each legion had one,
like carrying the colors. Like
yeah, and it gets lost. It's one of the only ones that ever got lost, actually. I think. And
let's be real, for the amount of battles they fought, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it was a big deal that the 9th Legion just vanishes. Yeah.
And think about how eerie that is as well. Like just to just be gone. It's like that to the most powerful empire in the world has an entire legion just vanish. Like that is, if nothing else, pretty creepy. Mindful Militant says, shout out to Boudica. She is in my spirit, she is my great great aunt. Any thoughts on Boudica?
No, it's not a. I know kind of who that is, but it's not one of.
Well, she's like
she's one of the. Okay, she's the queen. It was
she's like
Yasini. Yeah,
I believe she unalived herself rather than be captured.
One of the Britannic Celtic tribes. Yeah.
Josh McAllister. I'm not surprised that Josh McAllister powwows. He drums and sings, 2 different drum groups. I rarely get a chance, but I do have regalia, moccasins, leggings, ribbon shirts, roach, hats, feathers, bells, all that. I believe Josh is Seminole, so they got some really cool outfits.
That's awesome.
They go. That's a tribe with some good swag. Me and a couple elder Indian buddies that live around here put on regalia occasionally and go to the local schools. Oh, that is, I think, cool. So valuable. If we had that at the kids just love seeing the actual.
I that's still a thing that happened when I was growing up. Like when I was going in elementary, like a kid in school, they would tribes that it's in Arizona. That's where I was born in Arizona, and we had that happen like in our school. And I think it's a good thing for kids, especially to be exposed to different cultures. Like
you need to see it and touch it and hear it.
It really, if you're never exposed to different peoples and different ways of thinking, and it really limits your perception of things later in life.
And it helps to have a real life tactile representation in front of you, especially as a kid. That's how I got into Old West history, because like I grew up around cowboys were all over the place. So I was like, this I can understand, and I can visualize the Old West in some way.
A lot of my interest in history is because growing up Orthodox, Greek Orthodox is like I grew up around a lot of different cultures, a lot of Arabs, Greeks, Russians, Eastern European, Romanians, Bulgarians.
It necessitates an interest in history in a way to this is why you're here.
When you grow up around these people too, it's fascinating. It was always something that fascinated me growing up, and that kind of fascination just carried on later in life.
Sam is far, and I mean, I really mean this. You are far more worldly than the average American, myself included. I'm even a little bit. I have a bit of a North American bent to a lot of my history.
I think Americans in general, it's a problem for Americans as we get very. It's not just you know what I don't want to blame that one on Americans. No, I think that's very it's a human phenomenon. Yeah. It's very if you're not like I'm in a kind of a unique position. I grew up in a situation where I was being a kind of a normal white American. I was actually a minority in various points in my upbringing. So I've had that experience, and it's kind of it's something that's shaped how I think about things. And you realize when you're around different peoples and you hear their stories and you hear how they grew up and how they lived and their cultures, you realize what you really realize is how much you don't actually know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's we a lot of times people go through life thinking that we know a lot more than we actually do.
So there's a large proximity bias too. It's like, well, what we're close to, we might know really well, but we don't know what we don't know. And that is, I think the more history that you learn, like you said, the more you realize that you really don't know much.
And it's a helpful thing to if you don't. I think the main reason too, you hear people talk like, it's very, I'm sure everybody's heard this in a history class growing up, those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat some mistakes. I actually don't like that quote because I don't think it's very true. Is I think the reason you learn history is because it teaches you who you are and where you came from.
Yeah. I think of it like this is this is where you are on the map.
Yeah.
Like,
and
this is kind of where you are.
Exactly. And like if you don't know who you are and where you came from, how do you expect to know how to move forward in life?
You have no azimuth. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what's up, down, left, right.
You're ungrounded. You're adrift, you know.
Let's see. Josh McAllister says, from what I understand, they fought for 3 days at Teutoburg. Is that correct? Or have you heard that?
Again, I really do want. We should do an episode on Teutoburg.
Yeah,
but sure. I want to but I actually want to I want to do research on it. It's not one that I've researched enough to, and I know there's a lot of research available on that one that I can talk about it. So
it's a deep subject.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Keller, speaking of actual deep subjects, this is something I avoid, I skirt around, is Little Bighorn. Little Bighorn is unique because we have firsthand accounts of Native participants and also accounts of soldiers who went through the battle immediately after. Also, we have archaeological and forensic info. Absolutely correct. That is very unique.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of and that's that's kind of an anomaly in history. A lot of these even very famous, very important events, sometimes it's just like one person's account that it's kind of how we know about it. This is
relatively modern by all these other accounts that we're talking about. This is 1875, so it's like it's not that long ago. Like
you'd be surprised by how many important historic battles we don't actually know the exact location of.
Nope.
Because it's kind of been lost to history. Or because somebody will describe like it was here, like it was at this place, but the problem is like, okay, so famous example, the Battle of Chibi in the Three Kingdoms era in China. Famous, one of the most famous battles in Chinese history. The Battle of Chibi, the Battle of Red Cliffs. There's a movie about it. It's actually a pretty good movie.
Where in China is this?
It's on the Yangtze River, right. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because nobody actually knows where it was anymore. Yeah. Because there's multiple points along the Yangtze River here that were called Red Cliffs at various points in history.
Very common in the Old West.
And so like there's a it's unclear where the battle actually was fought. It's also, what happens in geography is geography changes over time.
Yes, absolutely. Rivers change, like all kinds of stuff.
Rivers change. So the forests change. The
climate changes. We were just talking earlier about the kind of seasonal the warming and cooling.
So it's like it's sometimes people don't appreciate it. It's hard to think like, and if you're familiar with the Three Kingdoms era in China and even Chinese history in general, right? I mean, the Battle of Red Cliffs is again, it's one of the most famous battles of all time in Chinese history, at least. I think it should be one of the most famous battles of all time in general. It's a great battle.
I'm totally familiar with it.
They made a great movie about it called Red Cliff. It's actually pretty good. Find the director's cut if you can, the international cut if you can. It's subtitled, but I don't mind subtitled movies. It's actually a good movie. Good martial arts. Good portrayals of the characters. It's stylized a little bit, but there's some stuff in there that's pretty much right out of the history books, and
I want it to be accurate, but like you got to punch it up a little bit.
I think it hits a good stride of making it because it's a bit of a martial arts movie as well, like, right? I mean, there's a lot of martial arts and which if you like that,
I'm down for that.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. It's a great movie. That's another good. We should add that one to the list of definitely. That's a great movie.
Actually, I got that written down already, so that works out well. That and Teutoburg.
But the point I'm making is like it's a super famous, important battle that it was, defining of an era.
Yep.
I don't know where it was.
It's a rather modern phenomenon that we know where these things actually are. Yep. Like it's pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
I had one. Armenian Bishop says Julius Caesar approved the rebuilding of Carthage. It became a thriving Roman city with olive orchards.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
they did rebuild Carthage eventually, and Carthage
Kind
is
of like their Marshall Plan.
the Carthage was an important Roman city.
Mindful Militant says Publius Quintillus Verus was betrayed by Arminius, a Germanic prince of the Cherusci tribe who had been raised in Rome, granted citizenship, and served as a trusted Roman military officer. I think that's who betrayed him at Teutoburg.
Yeah, the obviously we talked about earlier, talking about how some of the conquered peoples actually integrated into Rome. There were definitely some that did not, and that were deeply resentful of Rome for a long time. And a lot of the Germanic tribes were like the Britannic tribes did not. Many of the Germanic tribes did not ever fully integrate into Rome either.
And we're talking like barbarians, right? By the Germanic tribes. Like these are, listen, I'm not trying to be derogative, but like they're creepy people who live in creepy forests. That's kind of
they were so this is actually
I had Germanic ancestry, so I'm just saying.
Little interesting topic, right? They were in the Romans didn't have the same classifications of like race that we have today. We think of white, black, Asian, whatever. But they did obviously have some distinctions, because they had distinctions between, and they were basically like they kind of conceptualized people of like the Mediterranean complexion were kind of like, which the Italians were as well, the Romans were.
Yeah,
were distinct from the Germanic peoples. So they call it, sometimes they call it, they called something that kind of meant blonde, basically the blondes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And they were considered them a distinct racial group. Like they were different than themselves.
Would they consider them in like the Gauls different or the Franks different?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the Franks are a Germanic people.
Are they like a derivation of the Germanic people, or are they?
So the Germanic tribes are I'm going to give loose, broad points here.
We can break this all down on episodes to come. So broad strokes are totally fine.
In kind of classical, in Roman era kind of Europe, there are two main overarching groups of like the barbarian peoples, right? There are the Germanic peoples and there are the Celtic peoples.
Okay.
Right. And that's not the only two groups necessarily, but that's the two largest groups and the two main kind of groups.
We should specify, I would think, that Celtic does not mean confined to Britannia. Like this is over.
And in fact, they're not the same as Britannic Celts. They're like the Britannic Celts are an offshoot of that group as well. But the Celts do not originate in Britannia, in the British Isles, right? Okay. So
just when I first heard that, I was thinking, I thought they were indivisible. German or Britannia and the Celts. In fact, you're saying the Britannic Celts are a derivation of the Celts that are in modern day what?
There's larger, so the Celts at the time actually go through a huge migration, and they start migrating both south and eastward, and settle all throughout kind of Europe, into Spain, and even into modern day Turkey.
Really?
They're Galatia, right? Which is you might have heard from the Bible, right? Mentioned in Galatia. Okay. Galatia is basically a easternized, like is an easternized way of saying Gaul.
Oh, okay.
It's because it was basically the Eastern Gaul, right? I mean, it was. So there was a group, some of these Celtic tribes actually migrate that far down, and they settle and create this kind of Celtic kingdom in Galatia that eventually gets defeated by the Romans and kind of absorbed into others, into them. But it's
Well, are the
Yeah.
Romans dealing with the Germans and the Celts at the same time, or do they conquer the Celts and then?
Yes, and the Celts and the Germanic peoples do not typically get along with each other, because the Celts were kind of, as they were migrating, the part of what they were doing is they were migrating into some areas where the Germanic peoples had lived, pushing them out. So there was animosity between the Germanic peoples and the Celtic peoples, and there's like, they're not, in these kind of earlier times, it's not like Gaul was necessarily a kingdom in the sense that we think of a kingdom like a later kingdom. It was more like they had a kind of a tribal confederation.
Confederation, yeah.
And so
and Gaul is that modern day France?
Modern day France, yeah. And there's something like a third of them get wiped out by the Romans, maybe up to 2/3 even.
And was Hannibal hoping that the Celts and the Gaul would unite? Is that what he was hoping for?
Well, the Celts and the Gauls are the same group of people.
They're barbarians.
They're the same thing. It's not a.
Oh no! Excuse me. The Celts and the Germans, like were they?
I don't know if Hannibal had any idea about the Germanic peoples. They were further north than probably than he would have been super familiar with. Now he had a lot of the Carthaginians were used to negotiating with the Celtic peoples, and they were able to kind of. He had a lot of Celtic allies in his campaign in Rome
because of their proximity to them.
Yeah, they don't like Rome either, and they were
way up north, and they're like, I don't even know what's going on.
And he recruited a lot of these Celtic tribes as mercenaries. That was very common. It was the recruited mercenaries. Like the Carthaginians were used. The Celts also kind of migrated into Spain, mixing with the kind of native Iberian population, and then becoming there's kind of a intermingling of the Celtic and Iberian peoples and various tribes in various areas in Spain. And so the Carthaginians were used to dealing with the Celts, and they had were used to, a lot of the way that even the Romans went about this too later is that you would align with certain tribes against others to kind of, make sure that they would stay weak enough that you could kind of control them, and trade with some of them. And, the Celts, we know more about Celtic kind of civilization than we used to know, but the reality is a lot of it was wiped out by Rome, and
like records, artwork, cultural vestiges.
Yeah, we found stuff. There's limited. There's a decent amount of archaeological evidence, but a lot of the accounts are Roman accounts of these things, and they're very biased towards Rome. And there's even less with the
no
Germanic
doubt
peoples.
Written by the victors. History is written by the victors, right? Like that's not a trope.
And it's not that people are necessarily trying to misportray things. It's that everybody has biases.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're not, and they might even be trying to portray things accurately, but it's like you're still going to be, And you also look, if you're a scholar in the Roman Empire, right, and you don't want to necessarily piss off the people who are in charge either by publishing unflattering depictions of things that are,
it's realpolitik, right? It's like there's certain things that we just have to you have to go along to get along.
So yeah, now more of Celtic kind of civilization is known than other groups the Romans wiped out. So the Dacians we know almost nothing about. The Dacians were wiped out so thoroughly by Rome that it's historians even today know very little.
It's not terribly uncommon though for conquerors to just erase the conquered's culture. And also it's like you'd see that with the reservation systems where it's like, no, you don't speak Navajo or whatever anymore. You speak English now. Like it's a very common theme throughout history. It's like, nope, we conquered you. So now you're out with the old, in with the new, effectively. Actually, kind of leads me to our next comment here. Mindful militant says Arminius was a straight G. He lived in Rome as a hostage, which is what I want to address here. This hostage exchange program that was prevalent, at least in the latter stages of the Roman Empire. Is that correct?
Oh, and much later too. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
Using hostages as a diplomatic tool is a very common.
Yeah. If you were just reading this, you might think, oh, they took him hostage. No, it's a diplomatic tool of hostage exchange, right?
Yes. So basically, if you're the son of, say, you're the son of the chief of this tribe, or you're one of the sons of the chief of this tribe, and basically, in order to ensure that your tribe doesn't rebel against Rome, right? You're going to go live in Rome as now. You're probably you have a certain level of status as a you're
probably going to live pretty good, right?
Yeah, and in many cases too, it was used as a way to kind of integrate peoples into Roman society, right? Well, we're going to educate you, we're going to teach you Latin,
right?
You're gonna learn our ways and whatnot. And at times, hostages went on to really rise in the world. It depends on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a way of but it ensured the loyalty of the tribe that you belonged to.
Would you say that like the Romans their primary goal was expansion? So whether that be accomplished through diplomacy or military means was like whatever, as long as we can expand. Is that kind of their overarching goal?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Rome really starts to buy into its own sense of destiny, and they really just start to see themselves as the inheritors of the world, and that kind of fuels a lot of their expansion. But because they're not expanding all in one go like Alexander's the empire or like Genghis Khan, or it's this kind of, there's also a lot of, because of how Roman politics worked, military service and military, like as a general and such, was one of the ways you got ahead in Roman society if you were like a Roman elite, right? So if you have military victories to your credit, so
Right.
There was such fierce competition among the Roman elites that like they had to constantly be trying to kind of in order to make a name for yourself. It wasn't, you couldn't just rest on your laurels as a rich family.
You saw this all the way up to World War I, where like nobility had to go out and conquer, had to make a name for themselves or uphold their family.
It was expected, right? It was expected that you do that. So
Roman statues depicts Germans as being beautiful. Well,
I think that's possible. Yeah. I mean,
let's see. There was one. Oh, this is one I wanted to cover. Mark Kavitsky says there is a misconception that Rome was a civilized society and the Germanic tribes were barbarians. It actually was the opposite. The Germanic tribes were more democratic and ahead of their time in rights for women.
It depends on what you mean by civilized and
rights.
The rights, right? It's a Rome technologically was much further ahead than what any of the barbarian tribes had. In the kind of grand scheme of things. Now, as far as like where that is societally, the other problem is what kind of Rome also had going for it too is it's hard to make generalizations about what, when you say the Germanic tribes or the Celtic tribes or
would that be like the natives in America? It's like, well, there's a bunch of tribes in there.
Yes, exactly. And there's not, Rome, because Rome kind of is so well established and documented historically, and because it's so kind of monolithic in some ways, that we can kind of make more definitive statements. Rome was like this. The barbarian peoples, it's there were ways in which they were more advanced than Rome, but also ways in which they weren't, and so it's kind of hard to it's hard to say.
And are you saying like one tribe within that? Let's say you have the Germanic tribes, right? But one tribe within those tribes might have better rights for women or a more democratic process, but that tribe next to them, the tribe that's a mountain over, might not.
It's just hard. In a way, it's hard to make generalizations about the Germanic tribes and the Celtic tribes in the same way it is to make generalizations about Rome.
It's hard to make generalizations about the Apache because there's so many sub-tribes in there. So it's just the way people groups tend to work. It's hard to.
And Rome had this I mean, the people who were kind of in a lot of ways who were the intellectuals within Rome were the Greeks, right?
Yeah.
And Rome was able to basically keep their kind of militarist ethos, but incorporate the kind of the Greek like science and scholastic, and
intellectual
and philosophic traditions. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, again, integration was the key to Roman success. They were very good at learning from the peoples that they conquered, and taking kind of things and adding it to their own system, integrating it into their own system, I'm responding to a comment further down here. The Romans were extremely cruel. You're
talking about the Romans. Oh, Romans were cruel. Gotcha.
Yeah. Like extremely. It's hard to even think about in some way for modern people to understand the cruelty that the Romans.
Look at crucifixion. I mean,
crucifixion is one of the worst ways you can possibly die. People don't know how you die from crucifixion. It's the way you actually die from crucifixion is you suffocate.
Asphyxiate, yeah.
Is you asphyxiate because eventually, in order to keep breathing, you have to basically support you have to use your legs to support yourself so that you can breathe properly. And eventually, like as you're hanging there on a cross, you're eventually just by exhaustion, you physically can't do that anymore, and so you suffocate.
We have a mindful militant says, "Don't blame the Romans for crucifixion."
I'm not sure what you mean by that. It's
maybe the origination of it. I wouldn't say they originated it. I would say they mastered.
I don't know where actually. I don't know who the origins of crucifixion come from.
I don't know that it's all that.
But the Romans did use it a lot.
Yeah, they industrialized.
It was a way to it was a very powerful symbol of Roman oppression for a very long time. No, he's talking the one. Okay, the one crucifixion, the important crucifixion.
Okay. Don't blame it. Okay, fair.
And you are correct. It's. I actually agree with that. I
agree with you.
The primary blame for that lies on the Jewish leader. On the Jewish leader. That's what the history says.
It's historical fact. Yeah.
It's what the history says.
Mindful even says not to get religious. I'm not being religious.
It's not a religious thing. It was.
Rome was built by slaves, which had limited value.
I mean, to be fair, basic every civilization.
Okay, that's fair.
Slavery has been the dominant economic modality for the vast majority of human history.
It still is,
and
now.
It's still technically is. I'm not saying that to kind of like talk about how like it's like say slavery wasn't terrible. It is.
No, it's terrible. Yeah.
But it's also like this
That's
is
our
it
official
was literally a every group
Yes.
historically for the most part. There you could probably find some really niche exceptions, but basically
Oftentimes the
every
enslaved group had slaves. Like
Mhm.
oftentimes, like it was not uncommon.
in fact almost always. And Romans would be taken as slaves by other groups.
Yes.
Like it wasn't just the Romans taking slaves.
A world without slavery would be, would you say, is unconscionable a fair word to use? And like saying these people would not understand, that's outside their paradigm, a world without slavery.
Yes, it was a huge part of the world.
Just it was it wasn't evil.
And it wasn't and sometimes Americans, because of our own kind of very obviously very dark history of slavery, it leads us to kind of misunderstand how slavery worked in other periods of time and in other civilizations. Because it's not that it wasn't evil, but it was different.
It was different
than one thing that happened in Rome a lot is people sold themselves into slavery. It was a way to and that slaves could have depending on kind of like not all slaves were the same either. Yes. Right? So there was slaves who were taken as war captives are different than people who either sold themselves into slavery or who were born into slavery.
Is there a bit of a caste system like within that?
It's a little bit, and it's
maybe stratification is a better word. Where like there's
stratification, and there were periods of time and in different civilizations where slaves rose to positions of great importance and power. But it depends, on the time period. Depends on the people. It depends, and it's not like. So, I think it's an important thing for Americans. Especially again because it's such a charged piece of our own history, and we're still dealing with today, quite honestly. And it's it's important to take a step back and like understand the ways in which this is different than what happened in America, and the ways in which it's the same as well.
Yeah,
it's the. You didn't have because racial based slavery is kind of was been around for a long time, but it's not quite the same as it happens in kind of uniquely in the New World.
They just didn't necessarily view the world that way.
They didn't.
So. A little of it, but not the way that we do today.
Yeah, and. So yeah, it's an
interesting one. The Celtic people were considered feminine compared to Germans by Rome.
I've not heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, when the Germans get to massacre you in Teutoburg Forest, you kind of, as a Roman, if you're kind of a militarist with your very militarist ethos, you kind of develop a little bit of respect for for them. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Let's see. I think Alexander started it. I'm not sure what Jake Skywalker is referring to. Oh, he's saying Alexander started the crucifixion.
It's possible. I do not know. I would have to look that one up, and honestly, it's not one I really want to look up because it's a morbid topic.
It's a morbid topic. Yeah, it's a bummer of a way to die.
It's one of the most horrific ways to die you can possibly die.
I think
it takes a long time, and it's agonizing.
And that's why it's such an integral part of the Christian mythos, right? Like. Yeah. It's because like, well,
it was a symbol of oppression and torture.
And it was a low class death, right? Like like that's why Paul was beheaded, because Paul was a legal Roman citizen, so he couldn't be subjected to that kind of degradation.
Yeah, and so it was a drawn out, agonizing way to die, and
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So it was turning. No, yeah, it's the way it is.
Romans said that Celts were redheads.
I have heard that it's Celts a lot of times. The are depicted by Roman sources as a lot of them having red hair.
Josh McAllister says, I'm not sure who Josh is talking about, but maybe you would know. They originated in the Balkans.
That's the Dacians.
Dacians.
So the Dacians are in modern day Romania. You will notice that Romania is called Romania because the Romans wiped the Dacians out so thoroughly and then named the area after themselves.
Damn. Okay. And it's stuck. The people that live are Romanians, like genetically descended from Romans.
Yeah, in many cases, there are people who settled there. They're a mix. They're a mix of like a mixed, but like every group of people's a mixed genetically too. But yes, they are. Their language is. I mean, Romanian is basically Latin with a Slavic dialect.
I've got Armenian Bishop says Alexander tried to integrate Persia with the Hellenistic world. Some of his generals didn't like the idea.
Yeah, the Persians didn't like the idea either.
But he was open to it. He was like, yeah, well, the Persians seem to have some good qualities, so we're going to integrate them.
Yes. That was, and again, this is one of the things that Alexander was not always the most popular guy among some of the elites of the Macedonian elite.
This calls to mind. There was in the movie, at least, after he goes a little haywire and has a little too much, gets a little too buzzed, kills this guy, right? Kills one of his buddies, one of the generals. Then that's what sparks this potential revolt that Alexander has to quell. And I think it drove home the point that, like, even amongst his own troops, sometimes there was a little bit of a pushback. But when there was, he just killed them all. Like, he had no room for messing around.
Well, it's also, again, Alexander had an otherworldly level of charisma too.
Yes, I think
that you could go look up the speech he gives. You can, because you can find transcriptions of it. There's people who have done YouTube videos of that. Alexander speech.
It's what we'd call in the pro wrestling world a promo.
Yes, the speech at Opus. OOPIS. You can find people on YouTube who have basically like had somebody perform this speech because it was written down essentially.
Oh, he's trying to stop them from returning home.
Yeah. There's a kind of a mutinous group building, and he gives a speech, and it's a good speech.
And it's basically he's saying, "Go home if you want, but you're kind of being pansies." And
essentially, and then basically nobody goes home because
that's a great tactic to use if you just call a bunch of guys pansies. Like, listen, you can do what you want, but you're kind of being pansies. Really, there's another word I'd like to use, but
yeah, we won't because it's YouTube and.
Oh, Spud One, we got a little pushback. Your title clearly states Apache. Well, Spud One, this is a live stream, and live streams tend to meander back and forth like Victorio over the Mexican-American border. So you just got to hop on and take the ride.
We believe it or not, we did start on the Apache.
we did about 45 minutes on the Apache. So if you go back to the beginning, you'll catch plenty of Apache stuff. But the live stream culture in general is free flowing. Think less Frank Sinatra, more Grateful Dead. That's what we're doing on the live streams. That was Cletus who insulted a drunken Alexander at a party. Then Alexander afterwards killed his friend. Gotcha. Cletus. I didn't know that name was that old. That's evocative of a hillbilly to me.
Cletus,
like from The Simpsons, like Cletus the hillbilly.
I never watched The Simpsons, so.
Oh, in the 90s it was good, man. But even my parents were not terribly strict, and they were like, they kind of pre-screened The Simpsons for me.
My parents were very strict about what I watched growing up. They would not let me watch that.
I was not allowed to watch Friends though. And looking back, I'm like, good move. What a crap show. What a crap show.
Yeah, it's a.
I think that ruined a generation. Friends.
I had to convince my father it's more my mother. My father probably would have been okay with this, but I had to really convince my mother to let me watch Gladiator.
Well, Gladiator was good though. Yeah, I get it. I did too, actually. I had to convince my mom.
It was yeah. And basically, like I had a friend who'd seen it, so he helped me convince.
It's a great film though, and even for like young men, it's not terrible. There's nothing like terribly inappropriate in it, and it's very virtuous.
Yeah. It's there's some beheadings and some.
Dude, when it came out, when the
violence.
commercial came out for it, it came out on Super Bowl Sunday, and they had Kid Rock's "Ba With a Ba" playing over the commercial. Right, there was like "Ba With a Ba," and it showed them fighting, and I was like, well, clearly the "Ba With a Ba" song will be in the movie. And I sat there for 2 hours as like a kid going like, well, it's going to be coming up soon, right?
That's that is my favorite movie of all time is Gladiator.
It's top 3 for me. Yeah, dude, that is a great movie.
It's probably my number 1 still. It might lose its number 1 position only because they made a sequel which was bad.
Oh, that was rough. That was rough.
Yeah. That was the once again Ridley Scott is modern Ridley Scott is like, I'm just gonna take a paycheck and phone it in.
We got to stop with the franchise.
Yeah.
Rocky.
Nobody needed a sequel to Gladiator.
No, the whole point was it ends perfectly.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Is like this is one of the best endings to a movie of all time, and obviously my humble hillbilly opinion. Mindful Militant says they were located. I think he's talking about the Celts. They were located there, but also throughout Europe up to the Danube. The Danube was effectively the border into Germania with the Celts. So that's the split between the Danube is the border between Germania and the Celts. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how far the Danube goes. Yes, I think that is correct, but it's a. That's what we have Google for.
Amen.
I have to look this one out. Because the Danube River is a lot longer than I tend to think. Because let me see.
I'm looking through some more chats here.
I want a map of it.
I think we're almost caught up on the chats too.
So yeah, the Danube River. North. You're kind of correct. In north of the Danube River is the Germanic peoples. You also have the Dacians north of the Danube River, which are not necessarily. I don't think are Germanic. We're a Germanic people. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they were. I think they were a different group of people. But again, it's one of those we don't actually know a lot about them because they're all gone. Because yes, the Danube goes all the way to the Black Sea. That's always where I think of the Danube, but I always forget that it actually goes further into Europe than I remember it going. It goes further into Germany even than I. Because I always think of the Danube River as being in Eastern Europe, but then I forget that it actually goes further up.
Tell you what, pontificate on the Danube for a second. Check the chat out, see if there's anything you want to answer. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. I will be right back. I drank a bunch of coffee and water before this, so I got to go reset for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
I shall return.
Somebody posted a spicy comment. I can't put it up on the screen, but I'll respond to it. Yeah, Gladiator is my favorite movie. I know it's shocking. I'm a guy in my that's a very guy movie, but it's one of those movies that is so true to the spirit of the history and the spirit of the times that even though the events are fictionalized and the majority of the characters are fictional, it's so true. It gives some of the best commentary on the nature of Rome and the Roman world that it's like it's just amazing. And it depicts Marcus Aurelius, who is Marcus Aurelius may be the greatest king who ever lived. Like many great kings, he does unfortunately have the tragic flaw of not adequately preparing a successor. But he kind of spoils kings for the rest of history, though, by being the actual philosopher king. I mean, he is the closest to the Platonic ideal of the philosopher king as we're probably ever going to get.
Does he surpass Baldwin IV in your estimation?
It's hard to say.
Yeah. I was like,
he lives longer for sure. So it's kind of it's
a little different criteria, maybe.
It's different criteria. Yeah. And he also wrote a lot, right? He wrote a lot about philosophy and such. And I mean, he's one of the great Stoic. He's the great king. He's also one of the great philosophers, the great Stoic philosophers, right? I mean, he's very in vogue even today, like among Stoic devotees. Like everybody has a pocket copy of Marcus Aurelius. Yeah,
interesting. I'd like to dive into this and get your. Josh McAllister says, I don't know if crucifixion is worse than being tortured by Apaches or burned at the stake by the Shawnee.
It's probably around the same. It's probably around the same level of that.
I would say maybe it is worse because of the duration is my only caveat. Maybe because a crucifixion is going to take days where a burning. I don't know. I don't have a preference though. Either way would suck.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad way to die.
Mark Ketsky says I was named after Marcus Aurelius. Nice.
That's cool.
There's no.
I mean, Marcus Aurelius is great. Like he's it's just.
I think we have a Saint Brandon. I don't think I'm named after anybody.
If you know nothing else about Marcus Aurelius, you want to understand who the man was. You know, he's the emperor of Rome, right? Richest, most powerful man in the world, and he has a slave who follows him around in public, and his only job is that every time somebody praises him in public, the slave whispers in his ear, "You are only a man."
I kind of have an inner voice that does that, but.
Yeah. No, but you're not the emperor of Rome either.
No, funny.
I tell you, you're a pretty great person, but let's be honest. People on the street don't come up to us and say, oh, you're so amazing, sir.
They certainly do not. They certainly do not. In my case, anyways. But he's got he is like a proto-Christian ideal in a lot of ways, right? Like he's before.
There's a lot of no. He's I think. Oh my God, he's after Christianity technically.
Really? Okay. How come he didn't convert? What's his deal?
Well, because most people didn't at that point.
Well, we'll give him a break.
He's 121 AD.
So he had time.
That's when he was born. So he died at 180 AD. But I mean, Christianity at this point is, for the most part, is this weird kooky cult from the East.
Aleximenos worshiping his god, right? Like the Romans thought there was the story of a Roman soldier or legionnaire. Like they thought he was praying to a donkey. They thought like Christ was a donkey. He was praying to this like.
Yeah, there's at various points the Romans thought various things.
Very
about
small
that.
At this time.
It's a lot of Stoic philosophers, though, like the Stoic philosophers in general, were heavily utilized by early Christian thinkers, though, as well. So,
but I'm being facetious and a little funny, saying why didn't Marcus convert? It's like, no, your proper understanding would be like it's a very localized phenomenon at the time as well. So like, it's understandable. Mm-hmm. But yes, also to your point. How rare is that in human history where you have this dual threat of leader and monarch and philosopher? It's
Almost never.
yeah, it's almost doesn't exist.
There's very, very few other people who are like that.
Marcus stopped gladiator games, even if it was for a short time.
Yeah, I know that they talk about that in the movie Gladiator, but I don't actually know if that's true or not. I'd have to look that one up. I suspect it is, but it's you know, I'd have to look that one up.
I don't know if you know anything about this, but Armenian bishop says Ottomans abandoned sacks of coffee after they were defeated at Vienna. From that, coffee became a popular drink in Austria.
I had not heard that, but that would not surprise. That's one of those stories that if it's not true, it should be.
Yeah, it's like, well, it kind of makes sense. Like, we'll take it. There's probably some vestige of that's true.
I mean, coffee itself is a New World crop.
Yes.
So
North Africa.
Wait,
no.
No, it's coffee. Coffee is a New World crop.
I think coffee originates from Northern Africa, from Ethiopia.
No, it does not. Coffee.
Sure?
I am pretty sure coffee is a New World crop. I'm gonna look that one up because
I'm not sticking my claim on this. Is coffee
native to the Americas? Coffee is not native to the. Oh my!
I took a Starbucks class. I was a barista. I was the worst barista Starbucks ever had, and we had to take this like history of coffee class where the Ethiopian goat herders supposedly saw their goats eating the coffee beans and getting all like energetic, so they started boiling the beans and grinding them up.
I could have sworn that coffee was
rare Brandon W.
Oh my gosh! I can't believe
coffee originated in Ethiopia and Yemen. All
right, fair enough. There's a shocking amount of staple foods that people think of are associated with places in Europe and in Asia and such that are New World Cup. Potatoes, potatoes and tomatoes both, right? I mean, it's a. Can you imagine like what's Italian food without tomato sauce, right? Without tomatoes,
Romans would have no idea what a tomato was. Right?
Nope.
An Irishman from the 5th century or whatever of the 10th century would have no clue what a potato was. They'd be like, never heard of it.
I mean, coffee is very big among the Arabs. If you've ever,
that's why there's Arabica Robusto. Arabica it starts from North Africa. Robusto comes from South America, where they like had the coffee plants transferred well to South America, and they kind of made their own.
It makes sense. It was a crop you could grow on plantations.
Yes,
like big plantations as a cash crop. So
Armenian bishop actually says, "Wow, a Starbucks class." Real quick, yes, I do attend this orientation, right? And the teacher, I'll be honest with you, I was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was about a 7 hungover, right? It was not terribly easy. And so I show up at the class and we do this whole thing all day, and we had to do all the steps of tasting coffee. And the lady asked me, well, what are the steps of tasting coffee? And I hadn't been paying attention, but she was standing in front of a poster that said the steps of tasting coffee. So I answered off the poster and she didn't notice it and I got passed. So that was, and then from there on, I was the worst barista they ever had. I don't have a great Starbucks.
I'm sure you were not the worst barista that they ever had.
Bro, I was pretty far up there. Maybe not the worst, but I was up there. A great point here. Corn, squash, beans, pumpkins, peppers, chiles, potatoes, sweet potatoes, apples, chocolate, and many other veggies and fruits come from the Americas. Absolutely.
I don't think apples is correct.
I would be, that was the only one I was going, I don't know, but the rest, yes. Corn, squash, and bean are the 3 sisters. They're known kind of colloquially throughout North America as the 3 sisters. Islam, yes, coffee was haram. They drank tea instead.
Yeah, apples were not native to the Americas.
Where are they native to?
They are look, it's I mean they've been and they've it looks like they were rich. This is according to
I mean, the modern apple is a mutant also, like
so it says it originates in the mountains of Central Asia and then basically spreads from there into Europe and then from Europe into the.
But what we know today, any of the iterations of apples that we know today are kind of a modern agricultural creation.
Yes.
Same with like watermelons and a bunch of other fruits.
Well, to be fair, people have been
Yeah. No, like
collectively breeding crops for a long time.
Yep. Thank God.
But yeah. Let's make them better.
I think, let's see. If you see anything else in the chat you want to hit on, let me know. I'm scrolling through it now.
Arabs do not consider coffee haram.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I don't know if that's true.
Coffee is huge.
Yeah, in the Muslim world.
In Muslim culture, in Arab culture. Yeah, that is.
Apricots are native to Armenia. Oh, well, there you go. The orange stripe on their flag represents the apricot. I like apricots.
I think
I'm a big Armenian fan.
I've had so few apricots in my life that I probably can't even remember what they taste like.
In Northern California, there's lots of fruit and there's lots of like dried fruit, and apricot, like dried apricots are very good. Very good.
Growing up, we had in our backyard in Tucson, we had a lemon tree, a lime tree, an orange tree, and a tangerine tree. We're so lucky. And tangerines, by the way, if you've ever had tangerines, we used to just do fresh squeezed tangerine juice, which is like I can't even drink orange juice.
Yeah, no, tangerines are way better than oranges.
Or tangerines are just like oranges, but 10 times better.
10 times better, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Oh, what's up, Mojo? Bless ups, bro. We're just kind of winding through the chat now, seeing if there's anything else. We're almost kind of. What's up, Elite Super Grind? Just coming in. Good to see you, bro. Usually we start at 10, so we kind of started earlier today. A question I wondered recently was, why did Native American societies not develop iron kilns? I checked it out on Google, but I'm curious, what are y'all's thoughts? I think actually Josh touched on this earlier. They didn't have beasts of burdens. They didn't know how to extract iron. They didn't know how to process it, and they didn't have a terrible need for it in a lot of ways.
Yes, I believe that's mostly correct. It was the metallurgy is kind of a weird thing in history that nobody is really quite sure how metallurgy gets developed, and then how you go from copper and bronze to iron. It's such a, I mean, who thought so I mean, you could kind of piece this out because there's types of metals that are easier to extract than others from copper, the earth,
bronze,
right? And depending on like where it comes from, like, does it, can you find it like in sand? It's basically, and can you extract it from that?
But who thought to heat that up and melt it down and shape?
And yes, and it becomes this kind of it's one of those really big unanswered and probably unanswerable questions in history, of where do like, how do people first get the idea of having of learning metal, and in fact, it's one of the things that's commonly in mythology. Metal, like the development of metallurgy, is one of those things that's very commonly attributed to the gods.
Yes.
Like the gods taught us how to do this. Same with like early, like beginning agriculture is a lot of like within mythology of early civilizations. It's like, the gods taught us how to do this.
And medicine in some ways, where it's like, well, these healing plants are taught to us by the gods. Like there's a fair amount of like divine intervention in a lot of the origin stories for these things.
It is, and it's a very common, and metallurgy is one of those things that's very commonly in mythology of early civilizations is attributed to.
The only thing I would say though is that I don't, and I'm mindful militant, you're not positing this, but I would say I don't know, and I could be wrong. I don't know what you think about this, Sam, but without beasts of burden, I don't know that metallurgy in and of itself would have made a huge difference in the native populations combating European incursion. Without the wheel and without beasts of burden, I don't know how well you'd be able to utilize that. What do you think?
Uh,
I could be wrong.
well, it's hard to say because it's hard. Like so if they had basically developed metallurgy hundreds of years before, it's hard to say what would have happened to their civilization by the time the discovery
Sure.
happens. So it's like it really depends. And this is another thing that people think of. This is kind of I think it's a mistaken way that people tend to see history as this kind of progression of more primitive to more advanced.
Yeah.
And like that is a very overly simplistic way of thinking about things. And it's not.
There are certain intervals of regression. It's like there is progress and then there's an interval of regression. Yep.
And there are and there are and Markovitz is giving a good example of the Hittites, right? Had iron weaponry prior to anybody else. They had iron weaponry in a time when everybody else had bronze weapons, and they were a dominant force, even though their population was small for a while, until other civilizations. And the reason they had iron weapons and why they had it before the peoples is they had meteoric iron. They had basically where the Hittites lived, which is in I believe is modern day Turkey. There was the former leftover meteors that was basically meant that there was iron much closer to the surface than people normally find it. And
the gods gave us this kind of story,
mm-hmm.
right?
So it's a thing that kind of happens. Iron has several advantages over bronze. It's bronze is heavier a lot of times, so it's harder to make bigger things with bronze. Bronze is also it's harder to sharpen bronze to an edge.
Yes, softer.
It's softer, so it's harder to sharpen it to an edge. Iron is much easier to sharpen to an edge, which is why iron becomes the dominant thing. And then eventually you get steel, right? Which steel is just and now the development of steel actually happens naturally. You can have a pretty good idea how you get from iron to steel, because what happens is what we suspect happens is as you're heating up iron, you get the introduction of charcoal, right? So charcoal basically gives that because steel is iron, but it's oxidized, right?
Yes, oxidized, yeah.
So if you have charcoal kind of as part of your heating process for iron, you end up kind of naturally getting steel.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's kind of how in fact a lot of iron weapons and armor are just kind of are still in some ways it's just early steel. Like it's not as oxidized as like you can
steel
and later steel, as they kind of figure out that this is what happens, is if you have these other things around the iron while you're have it in kind of this liquid form, right?
It's kind of like popcorn or something, where they're like, oh, well, when we heat these popcorn kernels up, it makes popcorn. They just kind of, a couple kernels fell next to the fire. They saw it pop. They kind of start thinking about this. So maybe they see the iron get heated up, and over enough years or decades, they go, well, maybe we should do this on an industrial scale, something like that.
Yep. And the access to iron becomes a pretty important thing historically too, as iron starts to become the dominant metal for military endeavors.
Do you think so? My point in it, I want to talk about Josh's comment, and then we'll get into Mindful Militant's comment. You do have to consider what's in this gap, right? In the theological or in the theoretical world of the natives having developed metal or metallurgy before European contact. you have to consider what sort of metalworks or technology the natives would have come up with. I think
that's
fair.
that's the point I was trying to make, right? Is that it's if they had developed metallurgy, it's kind of they'd be so different from what we think of, from what we know, that it's impossible to say what would have happened.
I do think there are 3 gaps there, though, and this is also I can kind of address Mindful's comment here. They would have had the same tech as the Europeans, and they would have given them an advantage in battle.
Why would you say that? Like that's the problem is like you're assuming that there's this kind of progression to technological development that is not necessarily the case.
And I think you're giving it a holistic nature that doesn't necessarily fill the 3 gaps of, let's say that you did have metallurgy, you still don't have beasts of burden, notably horses, you don't have the wheel, and you do not have gunpowder. So if you don't have those 3 things, that leaves you.
Well, you still would have got wiped out by disease, quite honestly.
Oh, for sure.
Even with all those things.
For sure. But you still, even let's take the disease out. I think if you don't have gunpowder, I think gunpowder and horses, I don't know how you're going to defeat the Europeans in battle. And the wheel.
Gunpowder you could get around, because the earlier versions of gunpowder is not the deciding factor that it becomes later.
Well, let's say let's keep the timeline the same. I'm just doing a thought exercise. Let's say the year 1500.
But there are no. But the guns at the 1500s are not that sophisticated. No, they're not the deciding factor in like having metal armor is a more of an advantage to this conquistadors than their guns are.
I would almost say having the wheel and the horse are maybe even on par with the metal armor.
I agree, but I don't think the gunpowder is the deciding factor.
Would you say it's worthy of being counted, though? I would say it's the lesser of those 3 gaps, but I would say it's still a gap.
It's a gap, but it's not an insurmountable gap.
You know what? You're really jogging my brain here, because I would agree with you. I don't think that gap was really closed. I think the firearm's effectiveness against the bow and arrow, it left a huge gap in rate of fire. So it really wasn't super effective until the repeating revolver and the repeating rifle. Until that point, it was marginally useful.
Yeah, because not only did they not have firearms, they didn't have things like crossbows. Their technology was so far behind where the Europeans were. And again, this idea that I think sometimes people approach technology and the development of technology almost like you're playing a video game like Civilization, and it's like our civilization researched this, that means we can now research this. And it's like, that's not really how things work.
That's not how it works.
And there's not a linear path to the development of these things, because that's just not how actual there's not like an architect behind the planning out your civilization, like where we're going to have this technology and then that's going to develop into this technology. It's a process that kind of is in many ways is not guided by an individual will.
And it's kind of a natural process, isn't it? Like this.
Well, I'm not sure I would call it a natural process either. So I tend to think, I know it's late, so we can get into the weirder stuff now.
Yeah, get into the weird stuff.
So I tend to agree with more of the kind of ancient interpretation that there is like a spirit of technology, that kind of that technology kind of develops itself in some ways, that there's basically an animating spirit that kind of develops these things, but that animating spirit is not necessarily linked to any individual people, and it's also not. It's not propelling it in a direction as much as it is this kind of just like it's propelling it in a direction, but it's not necessarily propelling things in like a in a progressive direction. It's not like you don't always go. It's like people we think of, we think that because we have all this technology today and people didn't have that 100 years ago, that we've like advanced from that point. And it's like I'm not sure that the actual way these things develop is necessarily just upward. I think you can actually at both in times in history and even today, quite honestly, you can see periods of time where technology actually actively gets worse.
Give us an example of like from today. What do you mean like today?
Cars are actively worse than they
were.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Than they were 50 years ago. They don't last as long. They don't they require more maintenance. Mm-hmm. They don't function. Their core function has not changed, but their development has not has not actually gotten. The development of cars has not gotten cars like more advanced and more sophisticated. They've actually become more convoluted. They've become more.
All they've managed to do is add a bunch of bells and whistles to them.
Yes, and in many so the technology of automobile, the technology that is automobiles, right, has not like, and that's a good example of something that's kind of not getting better. Same with like phones, like my iPhone here, right? They release a new iPhone every year, but is the iPhone this year actually any better than the one 5 years ago? Can it functionally do anything differently?
No, not really.
And even the things that it does do differently, are those things actually to your benefit?
No, and the interval between those improvements, like the interval between a 2008 iPhone and 2012, maybe relatively marked. The improvement since 2012 to today, almost negligible in my experience. Like it's just such small increments where it's like, oh, now it can count your steps. It's like, okay, like that's great, but it still doesn't get crap. It gets crap service in the middle of downtown Austin. So the actual, I don't want to call it disappointing, okay, but like the actual same thing with the electric car. It's like I thought we'd be way further ahead in the technology of that than we currently are. It doesn't seem that rapid of an advancement.
This isn't so. You have to also understand too. Like, what is the purpose of technology?
Well, hopefully to make our lives better.
Like we could be technical about it, right? Like to be technical.
To synthesize or streamline processes, or
well, no, it reduces human labor. That's from on a fundamental level, from fire to the wheel to the iPhone, right? The purpose of technology is to reduce human labor.
Yeah.
Right. And there what's happened now is because technology not only doesn't reduce human labor, it actually increases human labor.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not even sure like you can even classify some of these things as technology anymore. They're just a mandatory part of society. But this isn't the only time that technology has kind of actively gotten worse. And you saw this happen to collapse the Roman Empire for the same thing kind of happened. Is that it took a long time to get technology kind of back to where it had been. But the development of technology isn't just linear, and it shouldn't be thought of as linear. I think we fall into this trap of thinking that things are going to get better, and like things like actual like things like a
whatever, be it a calculator, we expect it to get better.
Yeah, and there's no reason to believe that that's the case.
I think in our modern society, let's say the last 100 years, that's what we've seen, though. So do you think, point in case, we've seen telegram, phone, smartphone, right? We've seen biplane, jet engine, 747. So like we do assume, at least within recent memory.
I get it. It's
so do you think this is the point?
It's a mistaken assumption, because if there's a point where like we've gotten so used to when these impediments to the next like step of this development happen, that something will be developed that is going to get around that, right? So we've gotten used to that idea that we've kind of, but it's also, it's in many cases it's kind of we've kind of pigeonholed our thinking into in some of these things, and we can't even, we're running up into unsolvable problems because there are strict limitations to just to some of these things that are just not going to.
Are they unsolvable because we didn't see them coming, or are they unsolvable because they're inherently unsolvable?
They're unsolvable
in a bad position, or are they just naturally unsolvable?
I think a little bit of both, and some of both. Right? Is some of them are just unsolvable problems. Some of them is because it's like we kind of assume that like, well, let's look at something like the microchip, right? And I'm not a computer guy. Like I'm a history nerd. So computers may as well be sorcery to me.
Yeah.
So but the way that in which let's say that we use these kind of chips to transmit data, right? So to send signals to transmit data, and this is like there's a kind of a way in which this works within like a silicon based chip or something. Okay. So the development of those things is like we're just going to make them, we can make them smaller, we can make them more intricate, we can make them but there's a certain point where the development of that is as far as it can go. And I think we've long since reached that point with a lot of the things that we have in the modern world, like to where the new develop. That's why the new developments aren't actually changes in how they're just they're new bells and whistles, new gadgets.
Could you like draw a delineation between enhancements and improvements, maybe, where it's like, well, they're just kind of like adding a couple things to this, but it's not really overall better product?
Yes. It's not better. It doesn't fulfill its fundamental purpose of technology, which is to reduce human labor.
Yep. We're even kind of running up against this with the human body right now, where it's like we've kind of maxed out what these steroids can do. Like we just had these like enhanced steroid games, and it's like, you're not really. We've kind of hit a limit here with how far we can push this, and we're seeing some roadblocks that I don't think we expected.
Yeah, and so this is a thing the reason I'm talking about some of this, and is in regards to the comment about metallurgy in the New World, right? Is you shouldn't. I generally dislike what are they called? They're the term, it's a kind of thought experiment where
hypotheticals.
No, where you like change one, where like like what would happen if in World War II, instead of this, that happened? Like, can you extrapolate from that? Instead of poison gas, of saving poison gas, they had developed poison water. I don't know. What are those called? There's a term for that. It's on the tip of my tongue, and it was in the Big Bang Theory, and I cannot remember the name.
Somebody here will help us out.
I cannot remember what the term is.
Chat, let us know. You guys, you get there. You guys are like a living.
What am I? It's
the,
gonna really
theoretical, not revisionist. Like
no. It's a.
I'm just throwing words out at this point.
I know the clip that it's in the Big Bang Theory, and I'm about to look that up because I'm about to.
Something about you guys were big. Alternative scenario from Mojo. Mojo's throwing out.
Hold on, I found it.
Mandela effect.
Counterfactuals.
Oh, okay, cool. There we go.
Counterfactual. Right. I had to look up that. I knew what it was in the big. I knew that they talk about it in the Big Bang Theory, which is a hilarious show. I don't know. I have a mixed relationship with the Big Bang Theory. There's parts of it that are hilarious, and there's parts. It's so clear that in some of the writers on that show were like people who actually really understood like nerd culture and there were some that really didn't.
And then they just, for the rest of us, they threw in Penny, and it was like, okay, I'll stick around and watch.
Overall, I like the show.
Simp tax. I should be punished for that. You familiar with the term simp tax?
I'm not, but I can probably guess what it means.
Punitive measure. It's like when you make fun of a guy for simping out and just saying, "Oh, that girl's so pretty." It's like, "Oh yeah, well, simp tax. It can be extracted through a number of resources."
I didn't understand what people meant when they talked about celebrity crush until I started watching wrestling a couple years ago.
Oh, it's true.
And then Liv Morgan, man. Whew.
You guys, if we have any WWE fans in the chat, you got to get Sam into the Attitude Era. You are a encyclopedic knowledge of the modern wrestling WWE scene, and if we can get you into the Attitude Era, is a little more risque. I want to forewarn that, right? But
I have since watched some stuff from that era. Like I do know a little bit about that.
There's WWE before the Undertaker Mankind cage match and WWE after that. That's
honestly, it's like with all the crap that's in the world today, at least the wrestling is good.
Oh gosh.
like we're actually living in a really good era for WWE right now. Until TKO destroys it, but it's like that's gonna happen.
Speaking of, we have Coach Holtz, different kind of wrestling, but Coach Holtz, Adams Wrestling. I forgot, I didn't have my gear on today, but Coach Holtz, he's a Michigan high school wrestling coach, I believe state qualifier himself, the 20-year Air Force vet. He's an OG for us. Coach Holtz actually sent me all the Adams Wrestling gear. I usually will sport it, but I'm missing it tonight. Coach Holtz, I was going to email you on Saturday. Email me or let me know in the chat. Make sure you're going to be here. But on Saturday at 7 p.m., I'm interviewing Taylor Weber, who is a professional MMA fighter, judo black belt, sambo coach. It's going to be great. We're going to watch some old fights and stuff and talk about martial arts in the Old West. So I want to make sure you're going to be here. I was going to email you earlier today because I think you will really enjoy that. So thank you for the $2 super chat, Coach. Thank you very much. That's our official wrestling team here at HOKC. Let's see. Steel and disease immunity was what won it for the Europeans. At least disease immunity.
I think that's a little bit of an oversimplification.
A little bit. I get it. I mean, like your point is, Josh is an expert. I get it.
I want to make sure not to. I don't know. If anybody would have been over 20 years ago now. It was one of those kind of books that everybody had, Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Yeah, Guns, Germs,
right. And the problem is it was a super simplistic explanation for things. It's quite a bit more complicated.
It's a great title. It's a great shorthand theory, but yes, there's much more to it. Mojo actually says, I'd like to get your take on this. A lot of the kind of progression and regression of technology has to do with planned obsolescence.
So I think that planned obsolescence has a role in that with cars and consumer electronics and such. I don't know how dominant that role is. I think it's hard to I think people like to think of this the kind of like the corporate, the evil corporate boardroom with the mustache twirling, like, let's just make a car that breaks every 5 years.
Yeah.
And people think that that's like that there's some kind of like sinister meeting behind the scenes where people actually discuss this. And the reality is I'm not actually sure that's the case. I think what happens more than that is that I think what you've essentially seen is the development of these things has been essentially is taken over. But I guess that's why again I go back to the ancient kind of interpretation of these things, where there is basically a spirit of technology that kind of that guides how these things are developed, and that spirit is not connected to any individual human will or interest.
It's more of an ethereal force that just kind of
just happens
as an entity.
Right? You can think of this similar to way a hive mind works. Hive minds are endlessly fascinating because they're so inherently creepy to humans because
it's hard for me to understand too.
But
odd phenomenon.
It's an odd phenomenon, but you can see it play out in human society too, because that's what bureaucracies are.
Yeah.
Right. Bureaucracies are hive minds. Bureaucracy is
political action committee is a hive mind, right?
But bureaucracies exist, and it's any bureaucracy, right? Is at a certain point they exist only to sustain themselves. And there's no one at the top of those bureaucracies trying to do that. And in fact, the top of the bureaucracy is not necessarily the beneficiary of it either. The beneficiary of the bureaucracy is only the bureaucracy itself.
Yeah.
And the hive mind, that's what a hive mind is, right? It's an intelligence without a will.
Without a will, you said.
Without a will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and that's what technology in many cases is as well. What the development of technology is it's an intelligence without a will.
And can it be curtailed, or is it just such an overwhelming human impulse that society will always kind of be at its mercy or at its beck and call or under its spell?
You're going to get me in trouble by asking me questions like that.
Well, it's late.
Yeah. So because you're getting into questions like free will, right? Is essentially what these questions boil down to. Is are humans are we truly in control of our own actions, or are we so caught up in these forces that are beyond our control that we kind of just are puppets on a string? And the answer isn't super obvious, I think, right? Because like I believe in free will fundamentally, but I'm sympathetic to people who don't.
It's an understandable position.
I understand how you reach that conclusion.
Yeah,
but it's not correct. I don't think it's correct.
That's a very Calvinist interpretation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's a very easy logical trap to fall into. Once you kind of understand that there are these forces outside of human control that kind of move things in certain directions, and that humans are largely just caught up in those, it's easy to say, well, then humans, we just aren't responsible for anything, right? We are solely the product of the life we live.
And these impulses that drive us, whether
as soon as you're born, right, you start being exposed to things that ultimately shape what everything that comes after that.
Yes.
And there's some truth to that, but it's also it does not absolve you of individual moral responsibility.
Are you saying, like, could this would you say that maybe like a tech CEO like a Sam Altman is kind of, and this is just an example, but is there a certain amount of
Sam Altman,
gluttony for progress?
Let's put it this way. These people who are doing, so Sam Altman is caught up in essentially a spirit that is animating this movement. Even so, that does not absolve him of the moral responsibility of his own choices.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that these things are overridden is essentially when enough people take ownership of their own choices.
What do you think of Josh McAllister's comment here? The trade-off for technology and for machines is our humanity.
I do not believe that. No, mm-hmm. It is technology is been a part of humanity from as far back as you can go.
And you could say like technology gives us better medical.
And I don't think that there's anything inherently evil with technology.
No, exactly. Yeah, I don't.
No, it is a tool
mm-hmm.
to reduce human labor. That is it. It does not have a moral component. Like, and I think you have to reject. I think you have to reject assigning it a moral component. It can be used in immoral ways, and it can be used in moral ways, but it's not. It is not itself a moral actor.
Would you say that I'm just throwing stuff out there now, but like this compulsion for progression could it be kind of comparable to a compulsion for reproduction, where it's like, well, that's not necessarily, you can use that for good, you can use that for evil, but it's just a natural force that's there, and it's our responsibility to interact with it.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, the same way that
I'm really throwing that one up there. This is a curious question.
In the same sense that a force of nature is neither good nor evil. It is just is something
mm-hmm.
that we have to, that is part of the world we live in. And the reason Josh, I get very, I oppose that kind of thinking too, is that I think you fall into this trap of, if you say technology is evil, or not as evil, but is inhumane, or you're well, then what is humane? What is good then? Right? Is how do you define what is good, what's evil? And if the I don't think you, and I think then people will try to make the argument, well, the natural world is good, and I don't think that's true at all.
No,
because the natural world will kill you and eat you. As soon as anything else, it is also an amoral force, not immoral, amoral. Like it has no morality.
Right, it has no morals.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that if you're saying this, just my thought is that, like, well, the notion that technology deprives you or lessens your humanity, it's like, well, then does the farther that I distance myself from technological progression, does that make me more human? It's like, not necessarily. It's like, it doesn't have to affect the level of your humanity. It can kind of like enhance my ability to demonstrate my humanity, because it's like, well, now we can give you this cancer treatment, or we can give you better medical care. Does that make sense in a way? Like, I'm kind of just pontificating a little bit, but we shouldn't define our humanity by proximity to technology, maybe.
Yeah.
Technology, we got that. Technology is built on discoveries that compound exponentially.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
I was going to say that goes kind of directly in opposition to what you were saying.
That is exactly the opposite of what I believe. I don't think there's any reason to believe that. I'm sorry to be. I don't mean to be. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. That is, and I'm perfectly happy to have a disagreement with people. Mm-hmm. But no, I do not believe that there is a progressive bent to technology at all.
We see this is, I think we get you might have an interesting take on this. Jake Skywalker says, I could see a world where AI technology goes away. It's too expensive to maintain.
Oh, I think that's happening almost for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way around that.
Yeah.
The physical limitations are not overcomable.
And in comparison to its capabilities, it's like, it's not that impressive, and it eats up so much energy. It's like it's really
well. Okay, let's also be clear. What we have, what is called AI right now is not AI.
It's not literally artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Right. And I don't even like it's machine learning, and machine learning has been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Large language models have been around for 40 years, and
can you explain what a large? I'm sure people here would know, but explain a large language model. Like
this system where basically you feed enough information into enough information and goes into the
kind of like a hopper, I guess. Like
that it can spit out an approximate answer for a question, right? I mean, the problem is that the fundamental technology has been around for 40 years. And it really hasn't changed, and it really hasn't changed much in 40 years. What's happened recently is this been attempt to upscale it and to try to integrate it into other. Now as a tool, it is apparently useful for a large number of people.
Sure.
And I don't think anyone can deny that, but it's not reasonably. But
the degree of that usefulness.
The degree of that usefulness, I think, is deeply questionable. And is it going to continue to get more useful, or is it going to get less useful over time? And that's what's the problem is that the way the technology works is that like you're not going to see this idea the thing that the AI giving people bad answers, right? Like in just as factually incorrect answers to stuff. That problem is going to get worse, not better, with scale. That's the issue, right? Is that people think that problem is going to get better, that the information is going to be better, and there's no reason to believe that that's the case.
Is that because it's getting fed more and more?
It gets fed more. It gets fed the more. Like it cannot. Like when you ask the Google the Copilot or whatever a question, right? It's not thinking of an answer.
No,
right?
it's not
like a person does. Yeah. It's essentially piecing together it's not even coming up with a coherent thought.
Nope.
What it is piecing together words that enough people have thought is the right answer. And the problem is as it gets more information, like as it scales up, those like you're not actually scaling up the accuracy, you're scaling up the delusion, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and then I don't see the cost going down. I don't see, it's just going to stay as expensive or get more expensive for less and less return on that. I'm just very dubious on the future of AI. Scroll back up. Josh says I missed a comment. Josh, give me 1 second, bro. Let's see if I can find it. Can you put it back in the bottom, Josh? Because I'm not seeing it. There's a lot of comments here. Let me see. If you put it back in, I'll see it though. DARPA had it a long time ago, just like, yeah, DARPA had it. Mm-hmm. The problem today is that people are afraid of technology. The problem is that many people are being left behind. I am pro AI because I can understand and keep up with technology and keep up technology wise.
Well, let's put it this way, Mark. I hope you are right.
Yeah,
I hope that you are actually correct in this interpretation of the way things are going, because you know, and I'm if that turns out to be the case, I'm perfectly willing to in years from now admit that I was wrong. So
I'll ask AI to type me an essay on how wrong I was.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Josh, put it back at the bottom because I can't find the comment that you're talking about.
Y'all, it starts with y'all know something.
Yeah, I can't. If you see it, let me know. Oh, no. I just scrolled it to it randomly. Y'all know something to think. Y'all know something to think on that. It's mind blowing. The Comanches we always talk about were born into the Stone Age, and by the time they died, they were living in the modern era. Yeah, pretty much. Quanah Parker was born, Geronimo too, were born into, yeah, pretty much Stone Age culture, and then they both had cars within like 50 years. Nothing like seeing an old picture of a chief in his war bonnet in a car. It's like, I wonder what his payment plan was. They had to deal with the same troubles that we do. The word going around is that billionaires want AI to take jobs from working people. Yeah, I know, but like, I just don't think it's going to have the level of competence or capability.
Yeah, and if there are actually billionaires who think that that's a good idea, I mean, the millions of out of work people is what barbarian hordes are made.
Yep. And I just don't think
that's what starts revolutions. When a significant chunk of people are unemployed and unemployable. Like, what else are you supposed to do if you're like, I can't feed my family, I can't feed myself?
You're going to come to a let them eat cake moment if you haven't already hit it. The next two comments go with that one. They kind of get lost. There's a lot of comments that just, it's tougher than you think. The airplanes, movies, battles about the nuclear bomb, the Great Depression, they saw like all these things. It was mind blowing. Yeah. Even from like my great grandparents went from like horses to the supposed moon mission, which they didn't go to the moon, but it's impressive they convinced so many people that they did. I'd say that. That's not Sam's opinion, guys. Don't hold Sam to my opinion.
What's my opinion?
I hold that the moon landing is a farce and never really happened, but it's impressive that they convinced.
Come on. You can't be serious, right?
No, they didn't land on the moon, bro. There's no way. There's many factors that spell that even getting through the Van Allen radiation belt, even the Bible itself says that there's a firmament over the earth. I'm very dubious on round Earth. I'm open, like round Earth, flat Earth. I don't know. Like,
we're gonna have to. I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
Dude, I'm being 100% serious. I'm very open to round Earth, flat Earth. Like, yeah, maybe the Earth's flat, but I don't know. But did we go to the moon? 0% chance. We did not go to the moon. We do a great podcast on it. I deeply dove down that rabbit hole. Even like I said, even the Van Allen radiation belts themselves kind of negate the idea. The radio transmission. The Earth is
not flat. The Earth is round.
Yeah. I think the conversation's fun, but like,
I look. I had a good time at one point looking at the Flat Earth website because
Yeah, it's
somebody
fun.
clearly put a lot of time and effort into.
Yeah, I talked to that
trying
guy.
to do
I
this.
did an interview on my old show with Flat Earth Dave.
It's a kind of, what always bothers me about it is this idea that historically people thought the Earth was flat,
No, that's not really true. Some
which is not
cultures
true.
did, but I mean, like a lot of cultures did not. I'm not arguing for flat Earth. I think it's a fun conversation, but like, I just think it's a fun conversation. But the moon landing, no way they landed on the moon. I would be, because how would they have? Okay, first of all, you got to get to the Van Allen radiation belt, which is like flying through a thunderstorm without getting a raindrop on you in a lot of ways. You would have to get out of low Earth orbit. Even the numbers, like where they would have had to fly at like 18,000 miles an hour, and it just doesn't make sense. You'd be flying essentially 9 or 10 times faster than a speeding bullet. Like it doesn't, the math of that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then bouncing the radio transmission from the moon back to Australia and then to Houston, and then getting a worldwide broadcast from that, when like I can't get a cell phone signal in downtown Austin today. There's just a lot of, then Operation Paperclip. I think NASA is largely a money laundering operation. You get, I think, 50 million. Really, truly, I think like they can't really do any of this stuff. And I think it's a nice dark slush fund that you can use the tax money for. But I'm very dubious of space travel, any of that stuff.
All right. We'll talk about that some other point.
So you can see this. You can see the disappointment sweeping over Sam's face.
I know, really. Yeah.
The thing that looks like it. Wait. I'm dubious as well. Thank you, Jake Skywalker. There's a lot of people in the chat that get real fired up. Flat Earth is probably the most contentious thing. You will see the chat just go crazy. The Earth is flat. I think
it's pretty easy to prove the roundness of the Earth, though. Like I don't get that. That's what I don't get.
There's some of the things like them.
People have been watching ships go over the horizon for a long time.
But then isn't it like a matter of whether, like, when they can shoot, have you seen the videos of where they zoom back out? Like you'll see a telescope that's zoomed in on a ship, and then they zoom back out and it's a straight line of sight. And it's like, well, that wouldn't work on any kind of curved surface. Because like if you're behind a door jamb and I have a telescope, it wouldn't really matter how far away from the door jamb I get, would it? I still wouldn't be able to bend that telescope's line of sight around the door jamb.
Yeah, but light is affected by gravity, like, too.
Well, we don't want to get into gravity, Sam. So gravity is a whole nother conspiracy. I'm very dubious on gravity. I think that mass just settles to its lowest point. Because like, what? Okay, like if I put water on a ball, right, and I start.
So I think So I agree that there are some fundamental assumptions about gravity that are wrong, but I don't think the I think you got to throw out a lot of stuff if you throw out gravity.
I just think I don't know enough to say that gravity is not real, right? But I'm like curious about like, well, if we built this world to scale, like how big of let's say I took a cement block and started spinning it, like how big would it have to be and how fast would it have to go before it had its own gravitational pull? Because like if I take a big cement ball and I put water on it and I start spinning it, the water just flies off. So like, what is the ratio? How big does the ball have to be, and how much water does it?
There's probably an answer to that.
It's a genuine question. Yeah, I really mean that. Like, I would like to see that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this stuff I'm just having fun on, but the only thing I'm like 90% sure of is like we didn't go to the moon. I'm very dubious on all things NASA. Oh, good question. Well, I can explain this, Josh. Like, I can explain. There's a feasible explanation for who ran the video camera, but I think Kubrick did it. Let's see. You get what he's saying, though, right? Like, how could they have a video camera on the surface of the moon that videoed the landing craft landing on the moon itself?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. It's just a good question. Let's see. Yeah, you'll never see the chat get more upset than flat Earth. The word going. Now we got that one. I think we're black helicopters. Yes, you don't want to see black helicopters. I don't know. You see anything else in the chat we need to hit?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I think we're all good now that we got everybody. What's up, Robert Harrison? We've been on here for like 3.5 hours, so we're not just bailing out of nowhere. Lots of stuff though. Go rewind the chat. You'll enjoy this one. All right. So, okay, guys, we have the Comanche, Dark History of the Comanche is out now. We have shorts will be coming out every day. We'll do the stream for sure on Saturday. What is today? Wednesday. So I'll try and do another stream this week too. Hopefully Sam will be around and can join us for that. I don't really know what the stream topic is going to be though, but Saturday night we'll be doing the history of boxing in the Old West. Let's see. Then hopefully Monday I'll have the beginning of Victorio's war out to Los Animas Canyon. Oh, Jake, thanks, bro. Thanks, man. Be sure to like the stream, share the stream. Even if you just click share and click copy, that really kind of registers effectively the same as sharing. So I'd really appreciate that. Then we have our merch is up. So History at the OK Corral merch is up. I had to straighten things out with the tax man, and then now everything is up. So go check out the merch. Grab yourself a t-shirt, grab yourself a mug, grab yourself a poster. I'm going to have different t-shirts up there soon, some keychains and some other stuff. So grab yourself some HOKC swag, some best stuff on the internet. And I think that's it. So lots of stuff coming up. Be sure to stay tuned. Thank you again to Sam for joining us and putting up with all of my and the chat's craziness.
It's all good.
And I think that is just about everything. So we will be seeing y'all Thursday or Friday coming up this week, and then see y'all Saturday night as well. And I think that's all I've got. Anything else you want to add, Sam?
No, I'm glad to be here. I'll see you guys next time.
All right. Well, thank you all again, and we will talk to y'all soon. Thanks, and God bless. Have a good night.